Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. We are live. It is Friday, January 9th. We are here, and we've got a market open. Davis is not with me, so I'm here by myself. You're not going to get any jokes with Davis today. But we got a lot to talk about. We've got two major things that are pretty important today. Number one are the non-farm payrolls, which we've got data on that we're going to talk about right now. Not actually that bad, which is why we're seeing the pre-market that's green. Number two is the Supreme Court tariffs that we will also talk about, and we're going to see what happens with that. Hopefully, if we get an answer at around 10 a.m. Eastern in terms of what happens with tariffs. This is what we're looking at right here for non-farm payrolls, which, I mean, we talked about yesterday. We're going to get those numbers. We had jobless claims, which kind of were a nothing burger. This is what you got, 50,000 versus 60,000. That was expected in terms of non-farm payrolls. Not too bad. Unemployment rate went down 4.4% versus 4.5%. The reason I think you're seeing the pre-markets as green as they are is essentially NVIDIA's up 0.5%, S&P 500's at 691, SoFi's up 1%, Palantir's up, Salesforce is up, Elf is up, Google is up, is because of this unemployment number that ended up being way less. And, you know, in the context of the actual unemployment numbers, 100 basis points is pretty significant. You got a full percentage point right there. Risk on stocks are getting some of that momentum. Amcor is up 2%, Grab's up 1.6%, D-Wave's up 1.7%, Oscar's up 6%. That also has to do with the healthcare subsidies. We'll talk about that. It seems pretty good. Pretty good. We have a variety of different headlines that we're going to talk about that happened last night in the overnight markets based on certain things that Trump said. But your non-farm payrolls coming in at 50,000 versus 60,000 expected. The unemployment rate going down. That is also green. On top of that, you've got a couple of different headlines that have to do with the nuclear energy space, which is why your Oklos of the world are also green right here. As you can see, that's up 17% because energy, in particular energy that has to do with the hyperscalers, is catching a bid. Meta has signed nuclear power agreements to support data center demand in the PJM region. Oklo says Meta can prepay for power tied to a planned 1.2 gigawatt project in Pike County, Ohio, with a first phase targeted for 2030 and expansion through 2034. Vistra is also getting some love right there. That's up 17%. Vistra says it also has signed 20-year PPAs totaling 2.609 gigawatts, including 2.167 gigawatts from Perry and Davis Bess. You've got two different nuclear headlines this morning, and that is why you're seeing the nuclear headlines. And we also had Centrus Energy that happened earlier this week, LEU, where they got a grant from the United States government that helped that stock get some momentum. And, you know, it kind of pumped the entire industry when it comes to nuclear energy. But in this case, Oklo and Vistra in particular, looks like they got some deals with Meta. So, yes, plan for 2030. It's not happening now. And now, then again, the entire story with nuclear energy has not been a story of, you know, in the moment. But nonetheless, this is what we're seeing right here. The big story is the non-farm payrolls that once again continue to be very, very strong in terms of how the, I guess, labor market would be thinking about where the non-farm payrolls are coming from, why they're getting so much attention, why the entire market is essentially practically depending on how those non-farm payrolls are coming out. And we're going to get a little bit more data right here, but it seems like the market likes the numbers that we're getting.
Really does have employment issues, 34.2. So we lost a tenth, both with regard to expectations and in the rearview mirror. 34.2. Well, we had a lot of those this year. But to keep in mind, to find a smaller number, you're going back to the very first month of 25 when it was 34.1. Now, let's look at the unemployment rate, 4.4. 4.4. We're expecting it to go down from 4.6 to 4.5. So it comes in less than expectations. And last month's 4.6, that, in my opinion, was the reason we had some of the big market moves, was downgraded to 4.5. So it's now off the charts. And if we look at the labor force participation rate, and we really want that to expand a bit, it didn't, but it came in as expected at 62.4. Unfortunately, our last look was a bit better at 62.5. And Finally, the underemployment rate, known as U6, comes in at 8.4. That's really good news because it also had an anomalous read last month, all the way up at 8.7. Now, 88.4 would be the lowest read since, well, we get back on track. September of last year was 8.0. We started last year at 7.5 to give you an idea of, yes, it's good news it's coming down, but it definitely popped a bit. After all of that, what are we seeing in the marketplace? Well, here we hover right now at 417, which is unchanged on the day and down 2 on the week. But we did test that level at 420 and it came back off. That's the level to pay attention to. To me, the big meat on this report is the lower employment rate. And I think, of course, that may make the Fed's notion of all its anecdotal evidence of a weakening labor market a little bit less potent. Joe.
So, I mean, look, if the labor market is not weakening as aggressively as people may be thinking, which is, again, basically what he's saying right here with the data that we're getting, do we have a chance for a rate cut? Well, yesterday the probability was 15%, and now it's 2.8%. So no, I mean, based on how it looks like this labor market is playing out, the probability for a rate cut seems very, very unlikely. Now, this is a good thing technically, just to like kind of fully understand and break down these numbers. The reason why the markets are up right now in the pre-market, and hopefully that continues when we get into the market open, is because the labor market is not as bad as what people thought, which means there's more disposable income. There's more of a propensity for companies and people to spend, which is good for corporate earnings. If that withers away, the rate cut is not going to be there to save it yet, because obviously unemployment is not falling to such a level that would warrant a rate cut. At least, that's what the probabilities are showing us, 2.8% in terms of another expectation for a 25 basis point cut. So it's a good report. It's not a bad report. And there's a lot of different things that Trump has said this week. We talked about a couple of those things last morning. Over the last 24 hours, Trump has said a variety of more things, which is why you have certain names like Open Door that are pumping in the in the overnight market. They were dumping on Tuesday. Now they're pumping on Friday, up 11% right here. But this labor market report is good. It's not bad. If we can accompany this report with a decent CPI, which I think we get next week, I think on next Wednesday we get CPI, or the week after that, then I think that should be conducive to earnings. But quite frankly, based on what Trump is saying, maybe the labor market and inflation don't even matter if Trump is just going to do what he wants to do. So we'll talk about that. But the overall non-farm payrolls are good versus bad. The Supreme Court announcements, let me say this right here. I think, based on what I've read, that is going to be happening in the next hour, 30 minutes after market open. Will we actually get it? No one knows. Tesla right here up in the pre-market, because it is the Supreme Court. I mean, there is a world in which we don't get any announcement because the Supreme Court is the Supreme Court. We were supposed to get the announcement on student loans 2 years ago, many times before we actually got it. The Supreme Court ended up just taking longer than expected. But it is widely believed that today at around that 10 a.m. time, so about an hour from now, we will get a decision on tariffs. And yeah, there's no guarantee, but if we do get it, then we're going to see how the market reacts immediately, which means anything in the pre-markets could honestly just be a head fake until we get that data. So we're going to see what happens, but that's what we had for non-farm payrolls. Now, we had a variety of things that were announced yesterday from the Trump administration. I think the biggest thing, which I think came out right after the market close, which I don't know how people are thinking about this, but I mean, it's happening. Trump says he's instructing the representatives of the housing industry in the United States to buy $200 billion in mortgage-backed securities, aka MBS. He writes, this will drive mortgage rates down, monthly payments down, and make the cost of owning a home more affordable. It is one of many steps in restoring affordability, something that the Biden administration absolutely destroyed. We are bringing back the American dream that was destroyed by the last administration. Make America great again. Look, all I'm going to say is if this is the type of 2026 we're going to have, where, I mean, this is one of multiple announcements that have come out this week, whether it's on stopping companies from buying houses, whether it's on increasing the defense spending by $500 billion, stopping the ability for defense contractors to do buybacks. And now your own form of QE, which is essentially what this is. I mean, if you're talking about the U.S. government buying mortgage-backed securities, which I didn't even know the president has the authority to, quote unquote, get your representatives to buy $200 billion. Like, I thought the Fed has to, well, he's doing it from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So I guess that is the sort of legislative authority that he has to be able to make this happen. I mean, it's hard to be bearish. It is absolutely hard to be bearish if this is how it's going to be playing out. It's weird, but the reason you're seeing Rocket Mortgage and Open Door and a lot of these housing stocks that lost a lot of momentum on Wednesday after the announcement from the administration on not being able to buy houses from corporations, the reason they're going up is because, well, if we're going to decrease mortgage rates, which the 10-year unfortunately has not been able to do, even with this non-farm payroll number, which it also makes sense why the 10-year is not down today, because that means maybe we're going to have more inflation if people have more jobs. 4.183%. Obviously, mortgage rates have not been able to come down, and then as a result, the housing market has not been opened up. You might need to artificially get mortgage rates to come down. Open Door up 10% right here in the pre-market, and maybe that's through $200 billion of QE. Are you saying this is bearish or not? No, I'm saying this is bullish, because if the government's going to print $200 billion to buy mortgage-backed securities, like, yeah, it's going to help everybody. I don't know how exactly they justify it. But my broader argument is, if this is the approach the administration has this whole year, which quite frankly, just as all of us observing, has been almost like a random, let's throw stuff at the wall and see what happens, because I think I'm going to lose my tariff, which is kind of what feels like it's been playing out right here, then you're going to have a variety of different policy initiatives that might end up being net bullish. Or that, policy initiatives that are going to be implemented in a variety of things in spite of the tariffs being declined, which is something that could happen later throughout this year as well. It seems like it's 200 billion one time. I do not believe it's 200 billion monthly, but if it works and mortgages come down, and to hell with inflation at that point, this might end up being something that continues to play out. Trump says, now I'm giving special attention to the housing market because I chose not to sell Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac in my first term. A truly great decision, and against the advice of experts, it is now worth many times that amount, an absolute fortune, and has $200 billion in cash. Because of this, I'm instructing my representatives to buy $200 billion in mortgage bonds. Also, I don't know how much that's going to necessarily decrease the rates per se, but it might help making a dent. Obviously, the 10-year and the overall interest rates coming down is not helping. And by the way, for those that are just joining, I mean, if you want to unlock the housing market, the jobs report we got this morning is not going to help get rates down. Rate cut probabilities are now less than 3% for January. So if it's not going to help rates come down for January, and mortgage rates don't come down because rates don't come down and yields don't come down to start off the year, I mean, what else? Like, you have to have something creative to get these things to come down, and this might end up being Trump's way of figuring it out. So we are going to see. Edgar says, I think he's bailing out some banks that are underwater on loans. Yeah, I mean, look, if Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac actually have the ability to do this, I would be quite surprised. I actually kind of think they do have the ability to do this, but it's a question on if Trump, allows them to play out the way that he thinks they can play out. So time will tell, but nonetheless, that is one of the biggest stories of the day. Again, non-farm payrolls, for those that are just coming in, ended up being a little bit worse than expected, but the unemployment rate ended up being better than expected, 4.4 versus 4.5%, and that was helping the pre-markets get some of their momentum. Supreme Court decision likely at 10 a.m. We might not get it, but if we do get it, I think a lot of the action in the pre-markets could be reversed to the upside or the downside. We really just don't know how the market's going to react. I think most people are more bullish than not that if the tariffs go away, the market's going to be happy. Oklo got a big deal with Meta in the pre-market. Same thing with Vistra. That's why you're seeing those companies get about a 17% gain each. AMD's up a little bit. NVIDIA's up a little bit. S&P 500 actually ended red yesterday, 689.51. It was flat, but it was red. And we're at 692 in the pre-markets. The question is, does this hold until the market opens? Archer right there, that's up 2.5%. Zeta is up 1%. Kratos is up 2.5%. ASTS is up 1.28%. Redwire is up 3.6%. I think the first week of 2026 will be embodied by this idea of high beta growth and momentum that started off for 2026. And we'll see if that continues going into the end of the year. Trump also said yesterday that he has his Fed chair pick ready to go. So the prediction markets are still showing Hassett and Warsh as the front runners, but he also has made the claim that, yes, it is time for him to decide who's officially going to be the next Fed chair. I think we have it right here. Kevin Warsh is at 41%, Hassett's at 39%, so kind of like a deadlock, and Waller is still at 12% right now. SMR also up 12%. Yup, in the pre-markets, as nuclear is getting some momentum. Okay, so let's talk about a couple other things that happened with Trump last night, then we'll get into some of the other macro headlines. So another really important headline we heard about yesterday, again, this happened pretty much yesterday after the bell, which, I guess we're going to see how Greenland thinks about it. U.S. officials have discussed offering Greenlanders $10,000 to $100,000 each to support secession from Denmark and possible U.S. affiliation, sources say. The plan is part of a broader White House deliberation, which also includes military options or a compact of free association. Now, Denmark is insisting the island is not for sale. European leaders, obviously people who are leaders of countries that are part of NATO, have criticized the United States trying to do this, but that is not stopping Trump from wanting to take over Greenland, which, I don't know, maybe that becomes a thing. And the United States is potentially pursuing an option to, pay out the people that are in those locations. I don't know if this is going to happen. This was a big topic of conversation yesterday. The White House is also seriously starting to think that maybe this is going to be something around national security. But, this has been a hell of a week for these announcements, whether it's defense spending, whether it's mortgage-backed securities, whether it's the housing sector, whether it's defense buybacks. The energy market, shout out to VG yesterday, got some good love. That was up, 1.3% of the pre-markets. It was up 10% yesterday. So VG potentially catching a little bit of a bid right here. You just had a lot of things. You had a lot of things come out. And now you have this in the context of Greenland, which is also going to be really important for us to analyze what ends up happening. How would a ruling against tariffs affect the market? Again, the obvious bull case is that the markets never liked tariffs. We take away the tariffs, corporate earnings go up because they don't have to pay these prices on all these goods and services, and that's obviously because that they were tariffed, which would be good for the markets. The bear case is that if you get rid of tariffs, the linchpin that was connecting Trump's negotiating tool to getting the EU and Japan and South Korea to do all these certain things, that goes away, which maybe creates uncertainty in policy, which is technically bearish. But at this point, it's a toying cost. I really wonder what the markets would and how they would react if this happens, because the markets have had a variety of different moves on different headlines. Even J-Pow came out at the FOMC back in December and said, I think tariffs are a one-time form of inflation that are not going to be that big of a deal, which is why the markets have largely ignored since Liberation Day the extent of whatever tariffs that Trump has put on coffee, bananas, etc. Not saying there hasn't been an impact, but the markets have ignored them more than not. And I guess over the coming days, we're going to see, based on how the Supreme Court decides, what happens. HIMS right here in the pre-market. NVIDIA's up a little bit. ELF is up a little bit. HIMS is down. That one continues to get a hit. Tesla's up a little bit, and then AMD is up 1%. Again, Oklo deal with Meta. That's why that stock is up 18%. Not really a big number commitment to how many millions/billions of dollars they're getting from that, but there is a 2030 prepay agreement for nuclear energy. And that's why that's getting some love. And Vistra is the other one that's getting up. The other big thing that happened yesterday is in the context of Trump and Taiwan. Now, before we talk about that, there's a clip of Marco Rubio right here on Greenland as it continues to show the administration's stance on this, and then we'll talk about Taiwan.
Rebecca, is Greenland that important to future development in the Arctic?
Stuart, it's vital. It's vital for American security. And this is something that many presidents have looked at, especially as that ice melts. You have the Northwest Passage. This is all about shipping lanes. We do not want the Chinese and the Russians having strategic positioning in the Arctic because of shipping lanes and because there's so much military activity up there. We don't want them having such easy access, obviously, to the United States. And there's submarines up there, Russian submarines and Chinese as well. I will just say, though, Stuart, Greenland is still a great ally for the United States. We have full access to Greenland, so I'm completely opposed to the U.S. government threatening military force or keeping it on the table, because Greenlanders and Denmark have been very willing to cooperate with the United States. And if we do need to put more military presence there, which I think we do, there's perfectly good avenues to do that diplomatically.
Okay, so again, you've got a lot of different perspectives here in terms of what could happen with Greenland. Also, in terms of what is good or what is wrong for the broader markets to interpret Greenland. The deeper question, by the way, we got a headline right here on Novo that Amazon Pharmacy offers Novo Wegovy pill delivery to all 50 states. Let's see if that stock's moving. Oh, maybe that's why Hims was down. Yeah, wow, Novo 3.2% on that. Dude, Hims has not had a good couple months. I mean, they're getting Amazon distribution. There you go. There you go. 3.3% right there. As that's getting a bit more excitement. Is the audio bad? Hold on. I'm not covering my mic. The audio should be okay. It's being stupid. How about now? Better? Better. Yes. Better. Okay, cool. Just refresh it. So Wegovy right there, 3.3% on that. All right, so you're getting some momentum there on Wegovy. This was the biggest thing that I think happened yesterday. It kind of went under the radar, but it was really important. This is an audio clip of Trump with the White House, or with the New York Times in the White House, saying what China will do with Taiwan. A lot of people have been saying, well, Trump going into Venezuela and taking out the leader, I mean, that gives a lot of precedent for Xi Jinping to do the same in Taiwan. Here's what Trump had to say about that.
She would tell you Taiwan's a threat to China, that it's a separatist operation.
It's a source of pride for him. He considers it to be a part of China. And that's up to him what he's going to be doing. But, you know, I've expressed to him that I would be very unhappy if he did that. And I don't think he'll do that. I hope he doesn't do that.
So you don't think you've set a precedent with other countries?
He may do it after we have a different president. But
she would tell you Taiwan's a threat to China.
So the quote is, that's going to be up to what Xi wants to do, and he may do this after we have a different president. Quite frankly, and again, we got that Wegovy partnership with Amazon, which is why Novo is up 3% and Hims is flat right here. So that's why you're seeing Novo up at 59.25. Quite frankly, I think this is what we've been saying for the past couple of weeks now, that Trump believes that he has the legislative authority because of his brand positioning with the geopolitical architects of the world that gives him precedent, or gives him at least the foundational ability to do what he's doing in regards to Venezuela, possibly Colombia, Cuba, Greenland. We'll see what happens. Obviously, the logical argument here is, wait a second, if the United States can just go into another country and rip out a leader, even if you think that leader is not justified, even if you think they're doing it in the name of freedom, which, by the way, Iran has some protests, folks. Those people are fighting for their freaking freedom. It is, I mean, just as an American citizen, it's absolutely encouraging and quite frankly, emotional to see how hard they are fighting to get free. And I really wonder, is the United States going to come in and try to help them in any capacity? And is that the right thing for us to do, given how intense it's becoming? But the point is, if you do that, doesn't that give the other countries like a China or Russia the ability to say, well, we can do that too? And with China, even Trump's admitting that these are some of the protests in Iran that you can see right here. He's admitting that, Xi feels that Taiwan is a part of the national spirit of China. He's not going to do it while I'm in office, but if we have someone else in office who he's less afraid of, then he would end up making the invasion, which, again, if you ask the Taiwanese people, they think it's a question of when, not if, that would happen. And maybe it does happen in a different administration. So, I mean, the next decade is going to be, it's hard to even describe how geopolitically intense it will be from all different angles. But if the United States officially said we can just go take a military leader from Venezuela, it definitely makes you wonder how some of our adversaries might think, well, if the U.S. can do it, then we can do it as well. And we can do it in the places that we've been wanting to do it for a very long time. China's probably playing the long game here. Same thing with Russia. And that might be something that we have to think about. Maybe not implications immediately on the broader markets or humanity, but definitely something that it seems like we've set the precedent for. And if we do this in Greenland and Cuba and Colombia, and like you end up becoming, it's like we're playing the game Risk or something, then yeah, I think there's going to be a lot more conversation of how China and Russia will react to that. SoFi right there up about 0.69%. AMD, that's up 0.72%. Oklo's up 17. Open Doors up 10. Tesla's up 0.48. You're seeing pretty much everything go green in the pre-market. You're not seeing a lot of red. Nike's down a little bit. Nike got to 65 yesterday. That's up 3%. Probably a lot of people anticipating that there's going to be some momentum in the Supreme Court decision that'll be out at 10 a.m. Oracle right there, that's up 1%. OSS up another 4.5% after being up 11% yesterday. Home Depot's up. Ondas, that stock was on fire yesterday. You're continuing to see these high beta names get momentum. Ondas right there up 1.28% in the pre-markets as that one continues to go green. Are you afraid of what's going to happen with Supreme Courts at 10 a.m.? I don't even think you can be afraid. There's not much you can do about it, right? There's not much like at the end of the day, Supreme Court's going to make a decision. That decision is going to have implications on the broader market. Where is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is red. Not too red, but it is red. It's down, still down from 94 and then 91 overnight, 90.2. And we have to react to it. And the market has to react to it. I'm just happy that it'll officially be a decision and we'll at least start to get some stability in policy. Now, obviously that policy stability might be counteracted by how the administration reacts to it. But like at some point, we're going to need an answer on what's going to happen. And it's been a long 3 months of the Supreme Court going back and forth, hearing a lot of different propositions on what's going to happen or not around tariffs. We're going to need a response. And so I don't even think there's a way you can protect your portfolio. Like you're just going to have to deal with the swings of what happens up or down. But it is something that should play out. Hassett says we have high growth without accelerated inflation. Is Hassett live right now? Let's see. Again, the non-farm payrolls were not bad this morning. So the administration is probably going to try to, yes, he is live. Let's make the argument that the labor market is stable as unemployment is now at 4.4 versus 4.5 expected.
Now, big factories that the president has negotiated with foreign companies and domestic companies that have groundbreaking, so that, and the capital spending is looking really good. The orders and shipments of non-defense capital goods, you know, that we used to call it the M3 data back in the old days, that's very strong. And so again, everything is looking like the economy is ramping up at a really, really high rate. And I think that's one reason why markets are so pleased over this year with the progress that President Trump's policies have made. I was in the Oval last night talking with the president, and I was there with the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, and he asked us both to guesstimate what GDP growth would be this year if he hadn't changed any policies. And we both agreed that it would be kind of in the ones. And so I think all these things that we've done have really, really, really put, I guess, a shot in the arm to the economy.
Well, I was interested you gave a nod, of course, to Bill Clinton in the 90s. I guess he was doing something right. First time I always like to hear when the Democrats are praised by the Republicans. That's a good call by you. One thing I'm really struggling with, okay, which is that if I hear these 7%, I know we got productivity gain. I'm trying to figure out whether we should take rates to 4.5, 5, maybe 5 3/4. I don't know. You're more likely, according to Kalshi, than I am to be. You're in the Oval. 2 years in the Oval, David. It's an Oval. But I mean, what do we do here with the higher rate scenario that I think most conventional Fed chiefs might be looking at when you have 7% GDP?
Right. Well, the way to think about it, and sorry to be the pedantic Stanford professor that I often end up being on TV.
Well, I'm a hack Harvard guy, so go ahead.
Yeah, I know. So the point is that if you have a village with one apple tree, and then all of a sudden they plant another apple tree, then the price of apples of the village goes down. And so when you have increase in supply, you can have growth, right? The GDP of that town doubled because they have two apple trees, but you don't have inflation. And that's what could happen. That happened in the 90s. You go back and look, because computers all of a sudden were modernizing, increasing productivity, every business. Then you saw quarters of 6-7% growth without inflation. And it was really the brilliance of Alan Greenspan that you could have high growth without inflation when you get a really big positive productivity shock. And I think that we've got that happy thing happening right now. And so therefore you can have high growth without inflation. Of course, it'll be really, really important for people at the Fed to monitor it and make sure that that story holds. But we're seeing it in the data for sure that we've got really, really high growth and we don't have accelerating inflation.
Kevin, it's David. You mentioned, of course, some of the key policies, of the administration. One has been tariffs. You mentioned, of course, a trade deficit that we haven't seen this low since 2009. That may well get reversed. In fact, even hours from now, we don't know how the Supreme Court is going to rule, but I am curious as to how the administration is thinking about it. Should that come as a reversal of their authority under IEPA, and what you would do or the administration would do to continue those policies?
Right. Well, certainly.
All right. So this is their response to what they would do if the Supreme Court's in the next 45 minutes strike down the tariffs.
There's a high level of confidence that the Supreme Court's going to side with us. We think that we're really on firm ground. But I know you expect us to say that. And so then the question is, well, what if we're wrong about that? And it's important to think about that, too. There was a big call last night with all the principals to talk about if the Supreme Court were to rule against this IEPA tariff, what would the next step be? And Jameson Greer is all over it. There are a lot of other legal authorities that can reproduce the deals that we've made with other countries and can do so basically immediately. And so our expectation is that we're going to win. And if we don't win, then we know that we've got other tools that we can use that get us to the same place. And, I think that the IEPA authority is pretty clear. It's why it's the first choice of how to use it. But if the courts disagree, we'll, of course, respect that. But we got lots of other authorities that we could use to get to the same place.
Okay, I assume we'll get some articulation of that should it go against you. I asked the same question of you, but I ask it because I think it is relevant. You talk about productivity. I assume you're keeping a close eye on the impact of AI in the enterprise and what that's going to mean, what's going to mean for jobs, what it is going to mean for continued productivity. How are you viewing it at this point, and what are your expectations as this year unfolds, as we all look to see whether there's going to be a return on all that invested capital, for example, for the hyperscalers, not to mention benefits for the enterprise?
Well, I think it's really quite clearly in the productivity data. There's also case studies. There's a guy at Stanford, Eric Brynjolfsson, who's really hitting it out of the park, studying the productivity boom from AI, and it's really quite impressive.
So obviously the administration thinks that AI is going to be good for productivity. I mean, what do we think is going to happen today? I'll put a poll in the chat on the Supreme Court decision. Again, there is a world where we don't get the decision at 10 a.m. So just want to warn everybody, we might not get it. It is widely believed we will get it, but it might not happen. But what do we think is going to happen? So I'll just do a basic market reaction to Supreme Court. Pump, dump, or flat? What do we think today? Pump, dump, or flat? What are we getting? What are we getting? I mean, we had an entire week of green basically across a variety of different sectors. And I guess the Supreme Court decision is going to be the last thing that kind of either caps off the green or reverses a decent chunk of it. But it is going to be something that really, I think, has a broader implication than even non-farm payrolls. For those that are just joining, non-farm payrolls did come in at 50,000 versus 60,000 However, the jobless rate, aka unemployment, came down to 4.4% versus 4.5% expected, which is actually very good. But it also meant the rate cut probabilities basically have gone to 0%. They're at 2%. They were at 15% yesterday. We're not going to get a rate cut in January, which is also why I think Trump is tweeting about the $200 billion in mortgage-backed securities and just trying to find any way to be able to get these rates to start to come down to help people in the mortgage ecosystem. What about JOLTS? We had JOLTS 2 days ago. It's about 7.14 million jobs, a little bit less than expected. Not really enough, once again, to get the labor market to be so bad that people are going to be afraid about it and we're going to cut rates. But that's also good. That means that we have enough momentum in the economy. We don't necessarily need to cut rates. It's just, can corporate earnings live up to that? I think the biggest piece of news yesterday was the Atlanta Fed came out and they said, yeah, we think GDP is going to be at 5.4%, up from 2.7%. I was like, okay, if that's the case, Q4 is going to have some of the best earnings in history for the broader stock market. If we're actually putting up an aggregate quarter in the United States of 5.5%, I don't know last time we did 5.5% GDP. I really don't think it's going to be that number. I think 4% does have a shot. Now, granted, you have the shutdown, which could take things down. But if we put up anywhere near 4.5%, 4.3%, 4.7%, even with the shutdown, that means the private sector exploded. And if the private sector exploded, then yes, that's bullish. That's very, very, very bullish. So we're going to see what implication that has on the market over the next couple of weeks when we get it. Yeah, that would be China level GDP. That'd be like South Asia or Southeast Asia level of GDP growth, which is that's not easy for us to get. Tess says my youngest has done his first day at nursery today. I'm without a child for the first time in 5 years. All right, good, Tess. We have your unequivocal attention now on the stream as you are here with us. By the way, guys, Davis is not here. He officially left. For those asking about the hike was awesome. I've done some hikes before, but this hike was different. I mean, I do want to say I almost died like 5 times up and down because these rocks were like pretty freaking intense. But we got to the top and this was you can't see it too well here, but the view of the city in the background is pretty beautiful. It was pretty freaking, and then it was snowing. It literally started snowing, as you can see right here. Look at that. In the Red Rocks. I brought the snow to Jersey. From Jersey to Vegas, which was freaking crazy. But yeah, that was fun. I also got this picture of David. I'm like, dude, this has got to be one of the coolest pictures. It's like an album cover. It just randomly happened. It's a great picture. I thought it was good. But no, it was fun. And yeah, I legit think, I really do think I almost died like 5 times because like you're climbing up these rocks and these rocks are like back and forth and you got to, use your hands to be able to make sure you get above certain rocks. But thankfully we didn't like fall and die. But it was fun. I would definitely do it again. Especially to get the view at the end of the day. It ended up being nice. But now we got to see what the Supreme Court says. We got 5 minutes until the market opens. And I think that's going to be one of the most important things for the market today. No, we're not dating. It's a joke. Whatever we say on Twitter is a joke. It's not real. Even though you guys love to feed into it. But it is what it is. Also, the other thing that happened with the Trump $200 billion mortgage-backed security thing yesterday is I also think, we forgot to talk about this angle. He's trying everything to not lose the midterms. You talk about throwing stuff at the wall. It's freaking January 9th. He knows the midterms are coming up in 8 months or 10 months, I should say, because we start in November for the midterms. Yeah, we got to make sure affordability is good. We got to make sure that mortgage rates come down. We got to make sure that rates are affordable. We got to make sure that the ability to define the first 2 years of the administration is from GDP growth, AI, innovation, and affordability, especially when there's a lot of a pushback from the left in terms of GDP growth being at odds with affordability in the context of AI, aka data centers, increasing electricity prices. And yeah, I think Trump is trying to make sure that he sets up the ability for the labor markets to be intact, or not the labor markets, the midterms to be intact, like starting now. Because if you don't start now, it might be too late going into the end of the year. So that is going to be very important. Sachin, as celebrities say, we are just good friends. We really are, guys. We're just good friends, but Davis likes playing into it too because he's just likes trolling everybody. He's really a troll. That's who he is. So yeah, it was fun. We had dinner with Triple V last night. That was awesome as well. We went to Jim Khana, which is one of the best Indian restaurants on the planet in London, and they just opened up the Vegas spot 2 months ago. We did drink a decent amount of wine last night. I feel like I had the best red wine in my life last night. I mean, it was incredible. I think the total for the dinner ended up being like $12,000. The wine itself was like $1,000 a bottle, and we had like four of those bottles. So it was a pretty expensive meal. I tried to pay. I was like, Vlad, I got it. I'm gonna pay. He's like, shut the fuck up. I mean, I think I was a little too drunk. I was like, Vlad, don't worry about it. I got it. I can pay for it. It's like he's like, just shut up. Like, go eat your dessert. I was like, all right, man. One day I will freaking pay for the meal. But yeah, the food was good. The food was great. I think the wine was even better, but it was good. It was good. Yes, his name is Vlad, for those that forget. Triple V, his name is Vlad, which is ironic because all of you guys thought it was Vlad from Robinhood, but it's not, even though it is a Vlad. But no, it was that is the official end to the Vegas trip. We'll be back starting for the Sunday futures, regular scheduled programming. Excited to be back. The Vegas trip was fun. It was exciting. We got to, interview a lot of NVIDIA executives. All that content will be out next week. But I am ready to go back home, get into the routine to start off the year. And yeah, I'm excited to be back. So that's it. We are done with Vegas. I'll be flying back later today at around 3 p.m. And then we'll be back home. And that's what we got. So here we go. 30 minutes until we get the Supreme Court decision, most likely. We got about 30 seconds until the market opens. Again, everything is green, so I think we should just keep our broader eyes on what's happening. Trump said a variety of things last night. You had the unemployment rate go down this morning, which was relatively bullish. If we can hold on to this momentum, then that's good. Is it a rug pull? Is it too much, too quick? We got to see. But in 30 minutes, we get the Supreme Court decision, and that combined with the non-farm payrolls will make for what is either going to be an exciting market action to the upside or potentially a reversal on the day. Friday, January 9th, 9:30 a.m. Thank you, everybody, for being here. The snack market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. 690 open on the S&P. We didn't have that yesterday. We actually have not had a 690 open, I think, in history. We did get that 694 close a couple of days ago. Then we opened at 689 yesterday, 690.64. So that's your first 690 open ever for the S&P. Can we hold it? That's going to be the question. We did hit 692 in the pre-markets. Novo is up 4%. They are partnering with Amazon to distribute Wegovy, and that's why that stock is getting some momentum right there. SoFi, which went from $29.50 to $26.50, back up to $27.80, almost hit $28 in the pre-markets. I mean, SoFi has just been back and forth. It's been really good for traders if you've been trying to just stay within a range. But SoFi right here up 0.454%, and that's green. Open Door up 16%. Mr. Trump had some announcements around mortgage-backed securities yesterday that should get interest rates down theoretically and mortgage rates down, which is why the housing stocks are pumping. Open Door right there up 16.3%. Rocket Mortgage, that's another one. That is up 5.8% in the pre-markets. Tesla right there, 431. That's down. Tesla goes red. Out of all the names, Tesla goes red. Netflix goes red. We haven't seen Netflix 88 yet. That's at 89.17. Spotify, that's down 1%. NVIDIA goes red. Wow. NVIDIA goes red. Trump and the Intel CEO did have a meeting yesterday. Intel is up 2.6. Again, my stupid thesis on Intel is that I think Trump and NVIDIA are not going to let it fail. It's not really a sophisticated argument, and I know it's already up 80% since they bought in, but maybe that's enough of a reason for this one to pump in 2026. But that one is getting momentum. CoreWeave is up 2%. That is surprising that NVIDIA actually went red with that open. Google's green, 326. NVIDIA did hit, I think, 180, yesterday. D-Wave is up 1.84%. Micron continues to get momentum down from 350, but 327. Grab is up 0.61%. Amcor 5114. Inersis, that's up 1.38. Robinhood 117. This thing fell to 114 yesterday. So again, Robinhood's really been stuck within a range. I would say between like 114 and 120 right now, and it's been in that area. SanDisk fell 10% yesterday. That's at 335. That's up 0.32%. Where is Zeta? Zeta is 24. We get a 23 close for the week. That'd be very good for Zeta, but that stock is 24, up 1.44%. S&P 690.75. Continuing to show that green momentum. Yes, Oklo shares are up 18%. It looks like they're signing an agreement with Meta. That's why that stock is up. And, you know, for all the shit we give Oklo, the caveat to that is that we've been saying Oklo is a narrative stock. They get one deal worth whatever many billions. We don't know how much this deal is worth. That changes the narrative, and it adds some level of potential earnings to a company that doesn't really have earnings, or revenue to a company that doesn't have revenue. And that's what you're seeing with Oklo right here, even though you're not necessarily seeing exactly why they deserve to be worth 20 billion. What's the life cycle like on the deal? How much money is involved in it? But if they're partnering with Meta, Meta's a big hyperscaler, boom, that's how you get momentum. And then Vistra has something a little bit more specific, 20-year deal with Meta. CEG, Constellation Energy, already signed a similar thing like that with Meta a while ago. That stock is well up 14%. And you're getting some excitement there. BMNR, I haven't even looked at ETH right here. BMNR is down once again, 2.64. It's a high beta party, but crypto is not necessarily participating. S&P 500 right there, 691. Palantir goes down as well, 175. VG loses some steam after a good day of up 11%. Tesla 432.92. That's down 0.5%. Tesla also not participating. SoFi still holding on to its green. Nebius just went red. I mean, basically flat, but red, 97.29. IREN also looking like it's going to go flat right here, 46.90. And then CoreWeave 78.39. That's actually up 1.69%. In 26 minutes, we might get the Supreme Court decision. So a lot of this price action honestly might not even be recognizable until we get it. IWM, we hit all-time highs. Wow, small caps. 260. That is an all-time high, folks, up 1%. Look at that chart on IWM. 155 in 2022, 260 here today. I think the S&P has still outperformed it since the lows of 2022, but on a one-year basis, it looks like this one is starting to get some momentum. Google 328. Google goes green. Amazon at least broke the 240s this week, 243. That one's slightly flat. Vistra and Oklo again, they're up a little bit. They just lost 5%. They were up 18. Now they're up 13, both of them. But they do have that green. Palantir again goes to 175. We had a lot of news around defense contractors this week, which was bullish for Palantir, but that one giving back the level of momentum from 187, I think, is what Palantir got to. And then NVIDIA still red at 184.30. You had a lot of different China headlines this week with the H200s. I think we had one last night saying that China is ready to go to ship the H200s, and you had a conflicting one saying China is not going to let companies buy as many H200s. So I think the market is just confused on what's happening with China. I don't think you need China revenue for NVIDIA to be worth more than what it is today. But the markets are rather confused on that. UNH goes red. Rivian goes red. Nike 57 to 65. This one's up. Maybe that's your trade, especially the other retailer stocks that are also getting some love. The drone stocks are down today. Red Cat 2.3%. When we get that Supreme Court decision, that'll be important for that. Elf as well, potentially going flat. Silver and gold, let's check that out. Why not? Gold is up 1%. Silver is up 5%. This has been incredible with silver, dude. I mean, this silver is not supposed to be moving up 5% or down 5% a day. Silver now trying to get back to those Sunday night future highs that we had on silver. But that went up about 4.25%. JK, thanks for the super chat. NVIDIA, is it feeling the stress of a China invasion, or are we seeing the same setup from pre-tariff high? The tariff day drop, could NVIDIA be showing us the way down first? You know, again, a lot of people are thinking that this high beta rally ends when NVIDIA officially flips. I don't know if that's enough to end the high beta rally. Wow, Zeta, my goodness, 24.42. That's green. But I do think it would be indicative of, the broader market if NVIDIA does flip. Now, if the market keeps going and NVIDIA keeps being red, it might not be indicative of anything other than it's a full-on rotation. And that rotation is something that, the markets are going to naturally have to deal with. It is tough to believe that if the world's largest company takes a beating, then no one else will feel it. But nonetheless, that's been happening for the past week. Now, NVIDIA 190 to 185, that's not really a beating per se. But you have seen other things run outside of NVIDIA. Micron right there, 334. D-Wave, quantum names are still up 1.5%. Amcor, 1.5, 350, 178. Robinhood back to almost 118 at 117. Where's Rocket Lab? Rocket Lab still holding 80. 84, 1.32. I mean, the market's not letting the space theme die out anytime soon. ASTS should be moving higher as well. Yep. Wow. ASTS up 4% and 94.20. That's getting some love. And then SoundHound is also up 7%. All right. So you're seeing a lot of these names benefit. Applied Digital had a great earnings 2 days ago. They're up 3%. They were up 10% on earnings. And, if Applied Digital crushed the way they crushed, Nebius, Corey, Viren, Cypher, those names should also do a pretty good job. Broadcom, yes. Where's Broadcom? Broadcom right here, 337. That's up 1.4 as well. Wow, Zeta's really going for it, dude. I heard Steve and Matt talking about Zeta last night, and they are starting to get a bit more excited about the name as well. Again, I think it's cheap. I think they've still got a lot to prove, but from a perspective of a SaaS name that's just like undervalued, I do think it lives up to the hype. And I watched the David Steinberg, Dan Ives thing. They posted it on YouTube, so anyone can check it out. S&P highs of the day at 692. I like David Steinberg. I like the CEO. I like his personality. I like his excitement. I like his ability to articulate. I really like his level of belief in terms of his business versus the street's expectation of the business. And it makes me think they're going to keep beating and raising, which, they're on the verge of profitability. That could be a very strong thing for the company. SoFi right there above 28. Speaking about someone who needs to beat and raise, Mr. Noto, please, we need some love on January 30th with a beat and raise for SoFi to get this thing above 30. Nebius right there, 99.69. Netflix still down. This one's been stuck for a while as well. NVIDIA just flipped green. Celestica as well flipped green. Qualcomm still down. Lockheed Martin's up. AMD as well at 206. Wow, Novo 60 again. Partnership with Amazon on distribution. Novo right there. How much is that up year to date? I think it's up almost 10% year to date. 16%. All right, so Novo didn't have a good year last year. Maybe that's a recovery play. Maybe that is a recovery play for this year. Sachin says Anthony equity dilution Noto. SoFi came out. They explained it. They said, yeah, we're going to pay down some debt. I don't think people love the answer, but that was their answer. We just need a good dude. This thing needs to be above 30. And also, if Noto wants to get paid as much as he wants to get paid, it has to be above 30. I mean, on the weighted moving average for his PSUs, the stock has to be above a certain level. This thing has to happen. So hopefully it starts in January. Tariff decision is at 10 a.m. So in about 20 minutes, I think. I don't want to promise that because we might not get it, but I will be waiting and ready to see if we officially get the decision. I think it should happen. I mean, they've delayed it for a month by now. They were supposed to happen early December. So the decision should be in, and we should know. And we'll see how prices react when that happens. Hoodie 118, that's up 2.24. Amazon goes red. Google, which is now the second largest company on the planet, that's at 328. That's green. Mercado Libre 2188. Lemonade 82. That's up. Bank of America's up. You got your financials still getting some momentum. Duolingo, that one is flat but green on the day. And the trade desk, which potentially is a bottom fisher candidate for this year, that one's also flat. Nvidia at 185. Oh wow, D-Wave price target increase to 43 from Rosenblatt. I mean, if the quantum names are going to get these types of price targets, we had Wedbush already come out, Rosenblatt, IONQ is green on the day. Yeah, they're not going to lose the base of support they have, and the base of the support, which is people that bought these names 50% lower from here, they're probably not selling them as easily. So your quantum names continue to get excitement. Rocket Lab 86. This one played the game to try to get up to 90 yesterday. We got up to 89, 87, $45 billion market cap. Then it fell back to 80. Maybe makes a run at it again today. Boeing, Bloom Energy. This one continuing to move up. That's up 5%. The energy names, again, have been absolutely on fire this entire week. Most of them up 20 to 30%. Boeing, is that one up? Boeing is also up 2%. Wow, Boeing. That one doesn't move that easily. Boeing getting some momentum. Applied Digital, $37 call for February, 1.3 million has been bought. Here's the other thing that I think is really important when it comes to this kind of high beta rally. And we talked about this a little bit. So for those that are just joining, unemployment rate went down to 4.4%. We added about 50,000 jobs versus 60,000 expected, which was way better theoretically than kind of what the street was thinking about in the worst case scenario. And then you have the Trump $200 billion QE announcement yesterday, which we don't know if it's officially going to be, money that's printed, but that's what Trump is saying. If that's the administration's approach to playing 2026, aka them accepting that mortgage rates are not going to come down until we have a new Fed chair, which we will get in about 5 months, and they're going to have different forms of stimulus that have some executive authority to be unleashed via Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. I mean, it's just really hard to be bearish. Like, at least in the short term. I know Tom Lee thinks we go up and then we go all the way down, and maybe that could definitely happen, but Pouncer just flipped green. If that's how the administration is positioning themselves, you kind of can't complain about the high beta or the crazy valuations. You have to ask yourself, do you want to participate in the rally, or do you want to be on the sidelines? And it is okay to be on the sidelines and not want to take that crazy risk. But it's also not okay to be like, well, everything has to crash, because everything does not have to crash. But this game can go on a lot longer than what the markets might think could happen. And that doesn't mean you have to participate in it. And everyone has their own risk tolerance. But my goodness, if Trump's ready to just unleash stimulus unilaterally without congressional approval in a variety of different ways, I mean, yeah, this could absolutely have major implications for the broader market and for a lot of these high beta names. Zeta right here hit 2480. I'll check resistance at 25 and see if she has a chance there. 25 resistance is about 5,000 shares. Nothing too crazy. Volume's at almost 2 million on the day. Volume across the entire market, very nice. Obviously, the Supreme Court volatility is what I think people are waiting for. 691 in the S&P. But maybe we see 25. We got a couple of price targets this morning on Amazon to 340. I mean, every single equity report I read on Amazon is in the 300s at this point. Seems very to Google of last year. But we have to see, if that ends up happening. China, by the way, came out. China just said, we will continue to firmly support Venezuela in safeguarding its sovereignty and dignity, national security, and lawful rights and interests. That is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that continues to condemn the United States from China for what they did with Venezuela. Wow, Google. Oh my goodness. So here's the thing. Google 330. Either NVIDIA gives up some percentages or Google goes up a couple of percentages. And then Google will become the most important company in the world in terms of market cap. And to be honest, NVIDIA giving back some percentage might be enough to do it. Google's at 3.98 trillion. NVIDIA's at 4.5. Yeah, NVIDIA's going to have to fall a bit. But if that does happen, it would be quite incredible to see. Google right there, 329. That's also helping the S&P at 691.52 on the day. Yeah, Hassett again said, if we don't win in the Supreme Court, there are other tools we can use to get in the same place. The prediction markets have them losing by, I think, 30%. Yeah, there's a 70% chance the Supreme Court will not rule in favor of Trump tariffs, 31.4% that they do. So that's another thing that's going to have to be navigated in the next 14 minutes if we get these decisions. Pulte said, yes, President Trump will win and mortgage spreads are already down. Builders need to do the right thing and build out those lots now, and lenders need to do the right thing right now. Well, the other basic argument from a lot of people has been that the housing sector is not a question of interest rates. It's a question of supply. Now, obviously, interest rates impact the incentive to get people to build and create supply. So the administration, like Pulte, has, they've been trying to say that everything's okay. You can keep building. We can get more supply on the market. In reality, everything's not okay because mortgage rates are still at 6.2%. And we need to open up the housing market, which maybe the $200 billion in QE that Trump's proposing from Fannie and Freddie is the way to do it. But I think they're going to be desperate at some point if rates don't come down. And, that might be one of the tactics to actually make it happen. Rock Lab right there, 87. Rock Lab as well, up 5% on the day. BM&R has a new marketing, a new CFO and COO, Young Kim. Kim brings 20 years of experience managing multi-billion-dollar global franchises from MIT and Harvard Business School. Tom Lee says he will play an integral role in helping to execute our roadmap and scale the business over the coming years. Okay, so they have a new CFO and COO. It really doesn't matter because Ethereum's down, so Bitcoin's down. And that's down about 4%. Robinhood just lost 118. You saw a red candle come in. You're seeing a couple of red candles coming across the board. We got 12 minutes potentially until we see. Rocket Lab just lost 87. Palantir just went red again. Bitcoin just lost 90. All right. 10 minutes left. We'll see if the Supreme Court decision is being front run. Ondas just went red. HIMS lost 2%. VG down 1%. Then Tesla continues to be red right here. Tesla 434. Mexico's president just came out and said, we will strengthen communication with the U.S. after Trump's comments about carrying out ground attacks to combat drug traffickers. I asked our foreign minister to get in touch with the Secretary of State Rubio and if necessary to speak with Trump. Trump did threaten to do to Mexico what he did with Venezuela yesterday, which, is Trump actually going to, take out the Mexican president? I don't think so. But you do have the Mexican president saying that, yes, drugs are an issue and we need to comply in a meaningful way with the United States. Oklo right here, that one's still moving, 16%. Rocket Mortgage up 5%. And then IREN, that's up 1.2% as well. Amit, can you talk about Oscar? Yes, I forgot to mention this. So I don't know why people are freaking out about Oscar. And this is not me being bearish Oscar by any means because I don't have a position long or short. But the ACA extension did not pass the Senate. So everyone's so excited that it passed the House. Of course it passed the House. It needs to pass the Senate. So I see all the Oscar bulls going crazy on Twitter yesterday. I'm like, it hasn't passed the Senate. If it gets failed in the Senate, then this move reverses just like it did the last 4 times. So yes, the ACA subsidies getting extended are good and very bullish for Oscar. But there's 2 parts of Congress in the United States. It needs to pass the House and the Senate. Now, maybe the market's thinking that the Senate Republicans are going to flip like the House Republicans did, but the Senate Republicans are a different breed than the House Republicans. I don't know if they're going to flip as easily as the 9 that did in the House. So I don't think Oscar is a buy here. If you have to buy it at a higher price, then you should buy it at a higher price after you have clarity because you still think the business is undervalued, not because you think the Senate Republicans might be on your side. Because what if they're not? Yeah, the Senate already denied the current version. Exactly. So and we've known Oscar goes up 7 or 8% on these random headlines around ACA subsidies. This has been happening since July. So I don't know what the hype is right here just because it passed the House, but the Senate is going to be the most important thing. And I think we get that decision next week. Amazon 244, that's down. IREN goes green. We got 9 minutes, folks, until the Supreme Court decision. Again, I think it is happening. Every news source I'm looking at says around 10 a.m. we should get it. It might not happen exactly at 10 a.m. But the market might start caring more than not. Supreme Court bet is now at 32% and rising fast. Is it? Oh, wow, it is. Just went from 30 to 32. Dude, the prediction markets, we got some shit going on here. I don't know if you guys saw what happened yesterday, but there was a 98% chance that the press meeting with the White House that happens every day with Carolyn Leavitt was going to end or was going to go above 65 minutes. And then at 64 minutes and 27 seconds left, Caroline Leavitt abruptly ends the meeting, and the 50-1 odds on the meeting being below 65 minutes ends up winning, as you can see right here.
On November.
And the entire prediction market flips. This video got 22 million views yesterday. I don't think Caroline ever ran faster in her life. Bro, this was sus. This was sus. Look at that. Look at the timer. And then boom. Look at how she's like, I mean, even it's not natural. And then it immediately just flipped. I mean, that's kind of crazy, bro. So if that's the way that the prediction markets are going to start to be traded, I don't know. But who knows? Maybe the Supreme Court. I mean, a lot of people have argued. Even Brian Armstrong has said we should have insider trading to get closer to the truth, which I think is kind of nonsense because then, you know, the stock market would justify it as well, which is not good. But there's a 32% chance, 32.2 now, that the Supreme Court rules in favor of the Trump administration on this. Still overwhelmingly betting against it with 70%. Some serious regulation is needed. Yeah, and maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe like she just left normally, and it was a coincidence that she left with like 20 seconds left before 65 minutes. The reason I think there was a 98% chance of it being above 65 minutes is because the other previous press conferences were above 65 minutes. So it like, you know, that's how it happened. Maybe this one just happened to be below 65 minutes. But that's why it seemed kind of sus. Nebius right there above 101, and then NVIDIA once again flipping green at 185. She looked at the shot clock like she was Steph Curry. That was crazy, bro. I don't know. Maybe it's a coincidence. But yeah, maybe she had to use the bathroom really bad. I don't know. It was just, dude, that 50-1 odds is crazy. What a stupid thing for people to bet on. Well, I guess that's the prediction markets, right? People will be betting on everything here. Yeah, she had a conference call with the White House quant. She had to talk to Matt Money. And that's what was going on. Amcor just went red. Grab went red. BABA went down 2.5. BABA was up yesterday by a lot. S&P, we'll see. We got 5 minutes. Let's see if we get this announcement. Robinhood just lost most of its gains. APLD up 9%. All right. Bit of a delayed reaction, but that's up. And then ASTS still up 5%. Rock Lab still holding on to 85. Still holding on to 85. Fundstrat's technical person, Mark Newton, thinks that shit's going to get ugly in the next 6 weeks. He thinks early March we start to see a drawdown, and that will last until May. He says, I do expect it. It's going to be a year of consolidation and choppiness. I think it's going to start likely in the latter part of February, early March, very similar to last year, actually, where we start to see some pressure in stocks that likely last down till May. Now, the reason for this, a lot of people may be saying, okay, well, why is he saying that? Is because exhaustion in the technology sector. Newton thinks after a 3-year run, Microsoft, NVIDIA, et cetera, are showing evidence of stalling. Now, again, is that a reasonable argument? Sure, because we've had a massive bull market, but the NVIDIA earnings are not going to be bad. Neither are the Microsoft earnings. Intel up 8% right here. So, like, when they're saying exhaustion, I'm like, okay, but the earnings are still, like, I'm not, if there's a reasonable bear argument, then I'm willing to hear it. But if the earnings are decent, is that, like, how does that exhaustion necessarily manifest itself? I mean, money's got to be allocated somewhere. Is everyone just going to buy silver if these companies keep putting up earnings? I don't know. But that seems to coincide with Tom Lee's argument of just like this massive 20% drawdown, which, dude, 20% on the S&P is no joke. Like, that's a bear market. That's an ugly bear market. And for that to last 5 months, which is their call from basically February to May, I don't know. That would be an ugly year, even if we recover And that would not be Liberation Day, which, happened within basically a couple weeks. Why is Intel up 9%? Why is this one pumping? I'll try to see if there's an Intel headline. Why is this one moving up? I mean, well, the Trump meeting with the CEO yesterday, that was bullish, I guess. Maybe the market's reacting to that. So that's getting some momentum. Then you got Broadcom right here, which is also up about 2%. How the hell do you predict a 20% drawdown? Yeah, I agree. It's tough. Yeah, Trump's tweet on Intel yesterday, I guess, didn't have too much of an impact in the overnight markets. But he said this yesterday. I just finished a great meeting with the CEO of Intel. Tens of billions of dollars for the American people. In just 4 months, we made a great deal. And so did Intel. Our country is determined to bring back leading edge chip manufacturing to America. I mean, look, earlier in the year, late last year, that was my Intel thesis. I don't own it because I think it's kind of silly just to buy it on the idea that Trump's going to bump it. But then again, I mean, I don't know if Trump's going to let Intel fail. And NVIDIA's in this game now because they have $9 billion worth of Intel also. So I guess we're going to see how the market reacts to that. All right, so Supreme Court decision should be in the next 2 minutes. Again, I don't want to get everyone's hopes down if that doesn't happen, because it might not happen. But from every source I'm seeing, let's pull up a couple other news sources right here. The Supreme Court will make, or at least release their decision like now. So I got a bunch of different sources pulled up. Obviously, we got Cactus in the chat. He'll make sure as soon as it comes out. Odds went up, though, 26% to 32. It was 26% 31 minutes ago on a call sheet. Now it's at 32%. So that is a pretty big move in a relatively short amount of time. But we don't have the official decision yet. Polymarket has 33% chance. Yeah, it might take more time too. It might, the actual decision might be at 11, or 10:30. We should get some clarity soon. Zeta's at 24.40, up 3. Rock left 3.7. Iran 47. That's going the opposite of some of the other names. Meta as well. Meta was at 6.31 on Monday, so that one reversed. And now it's 6.47. I just want to get this over with. So do I. So do I. Just need to figure out what is the answer and see what happens. Oh, we had consumer sentiment today as well. 54 versus 53.5 on consumer sentiment. I forgot today's a Friday. Yeah, 54 versus 53.5. Okay, so that's not super big of a beat. But that's also 2 weeks in a row of consumer sentiment beating, even though it's not a big beat, which is good. Let's get an update. Let's see where this and when the Supreme Court thing is happening.
Issue that decision today. They're under a lot of pressure to get this done because, of course, companies are paying the tariffs in real time, and companies want some clarity of whether those tariffs are, in fact, legal for the administration to collect. To put this in perspective for you, Carl, take a look at sort of what's at stake here. The overall tariff revenue that was collected in 2025 and 2026 so far this year, and then what the subset is from these so-called IEEPA tariffs, which are at stake here in the Supreme Court. Total tariff revenue collected, $251 billion. The IEEPA-specific tariffs, $133 billion. That's the part that's at risk here, because the question in the Supreme Court is whether the International Emergency Atomic Economic Powers Act actually has the authority in it to collect tariffs. That's the law that the president used to justify his tariffs, and that's what's at issue in the Supreme Court today. So if those tariffs are struck down by the court today, the expectation is, all this could be determined by the court in a different way, but the expectation is now that the U.S. government would be expected to repay that $133 billion to the companies that sent those checks to the U.S. government. So a lot at stake for all the companies that paid tariffs, a lot at stake for the Trump administration. The president himself has been hammering home in recent weeks just how important he thinks this ruling is to his leadership as president of the United States. His ability to bring foreign countries to the table to negotiate, his ability to collect revenue for the U.S. government, and his leadership overall of the American economy, guys. So a lot at stake. We expect over the next couple of minutes that we will get a sense of whether the Supreme Court has issued a ruling or not, and we'll go through it page by page as soon as we get it. Carl, back over to you.
Amy, Kevin Hassett earlier indicated the administration has this fallback plan already of using other authorities conceivably to replace the authority that may be lost if, in fact, the Supreme Court rules against them. Do we have any sense as to how?
Getting headlines that the Supreme Court has officially finished their opinion released for Friday. The opinion is in. We don't have the opinion yet. Again, it's a 9-person panel, so we'll see if it's 5-4, 6-3, 9-0, but we do not officially have the decision yet.
How quickly that could take place?
Yeah, David, I'm just being told here by our producer, Ashley Trujillo, that we have one decision from the Supreme Court that has just come in. It is not the decision that we're looking for. Correct, Ashley? So no opinion today on tariffs, guys. Just one opinion from the Supreme Court. They don't.
Oh, shit. We're not getting it. Sorry, guys. We're not getting it. They gave a decision. Even if they have an opinion that's done on the case, that doesn't mean they have to issue that opinion on the case. And it looks like they have not issued, well, they are saying implicitly, they are not going to be issuing the Trump tariff ruling today.
Tell you exactly what's coming each day. So you just know there's a decision day. And what we're being told right now is that they have issued a decision, but it is not the decision in the tariffs case. That means we're going to continue to wait here. And that means, as you mentioned, David, that meeting that Kevin Hassett discussed on our air this morning to plan for sort of plan B options on tariffs, the White House is going to have a little bit more time to consider its plan B options. They have said they have a lot of options. One would be changing the tariffs into some sort of fee.
Nike just dumped. Dude, I'm sorry, guys. It was supposed to come out today. The ruling doesn't have to, Nike's not really dumping, but you see that red counter right there. The ruling doesn't have to happen on the same day as the opinion. But if they already put out an opinion, yeah, then the day's over. Supreme Court does not issue Trump's tariffs ruling Friday. Bloomberg right now. Yeah, we're not getting it. We're not getting it. They might have finished the opinion. That does not mean they were putting out the ruling. They made a decision to not make a decision. I wish my job was that easy. That's a hell of a job. But as you're seeing, markets somewhat flip red. The ELF and Nikes of the world are going down because they were expected to go up, but not everything's flipping red. I mean, a lot of stuff is kind of staying the same place. Bitcoin, basically at 90,000, nothing that crazy. Lulu, so all the retail names that were pumping on the Supreme Court decision going in effect today, which, again, there was a 70% chance that people were thinking it's going to get overturned. So Lulu, Nike, ELF, all the names that were getting hurt by the tariffs, they just flipped red. Nike's down 1, Lulu's down 4, ELF is down 1.2. There you go. All those getting hit. Supreme vacation. Dude, the Supreme Court took more of a break than I did this week. I missed 1 day of streaming this week. The Supreme Court, freaking the 1 day we needed them, they didn't come through. Yeah, I'm sorry. If anyone's trading, I mean, if you're waiting for that news is not coming today, which I guess means we have to wait until next Friday. Do they ever put out decisions not on a Friday? I think it's usually on a Friday. So maybe we have to wait another freaking week, which is annoying, but that might be the case. PayPal right there. Wow, PayPal. Goodness gracious, 1.4%. That one getting hit again. Oscar's up 3. Google 328. Not really affecting the S&P. Michigan consumer sentiment was whatever, 690. But the Supreme Court stuff was what people cared about. Likely end of month or early February now. Could be as late as June if they want to punt as long as possible. Oh my goodness. Non-farm payrolls were 50,000. The next one comes out on the first Friday of next month in February. Do you own VG? Mid? Yes, I own VG. Had a good day yesterday. Are we recovering today? VG is down 3%. Holding the sevens, I think, is really going to be important for VG. That's weird, bro. All right, I guess we're gonna continue waiting to see what the Supreme Court ends up doing.
In order to just replace the tariff language with a fee language, that might be enough to pass Supreme Court muster, depending on what the decision is that comes down. But as of right now, we're being told no decision by the Supreme Court on tariffs today, guys.
Okay. When would we get it then? I mean, if it isn't.
Good question.
Yeah.
And we don't know. I mean, the Supreme Court works in mysterious ways, and they announce these decision days sometimes a couple of days in advance. So you will get a sense that there's another decision day coming. But because there's so many pending cases in the queue, so to speak, at any given time, you just don't know which decisions are going to be issued on which day. And the Supreme Court kind of, sends these decisions down from Mount Olympus, and we stand here waiting to hear what they have to say. So we don't know when this decision is going to come. And again, you go back to the idea that companies are paying these tariffs every single day. Companies want some clarity here. And so the court is under some pressure to do this decision as quickly as they can. They've said they're going to take it on sort of an expedited basis and move as quickly as possible, but that doesn't seem to be as quickly as today.
All right, let us know when the next decision comes due, and I guess we'll
keep
do
you
this
posted.
all over again. Thank
Exactly
you, Eamon.
right.
Eamon.
Supreme rugged today. SPY just went red. I mean, that was the story of the week outside of this high beta momentum. The story of the week was going to be the tariff stuff. I mean, yeah, even that guy doesn't know when we're going to get the decision. That's annoying, dude. Now, granted, is it really going to affect? Yeah, it is. I'm trying to fight myself and say it's not, but it is. I mean, it's a big decision. That's like 250 billion of revenue that might have to be returned to companies from the United States. Like, it is a pretty big deal, to be honest. So as much as I want to downplay the uncertainty of the volatility, I mean, it's a big deal, and we're just gonna have to wait for it now. Tom Lee just retweeted something that says by 2030, the base case for Ethereum is going to be 22,000. The bull case will be 154,000. Okay. So we got 5 years to make this happen. So base case ETH 7x's, bull case it 60x's. All right. Guess we'll find out in 5 years. Roy says, I think we'd go green on either decision, but no decision isn't great. Yeah, the uncertainty of that. The uncertainty of that is not the best. Again, I love Tom Lee, but these price targets, if they are just unattainable and they never come to fruition, but you keep propagating them, people are going to lose interest real quick. They're just not going to listen at that point. They're not. 120x for BMNR. Yeah, that would be. How do they calculate it? Well, he was citing a VanEck study. They're using the terminal multiple plus the global tax rate on crypto, the validator cut from staking. I mean, they probably have a legitimate way to like get to the argument if you actually do the math. The problem is the propagation of the price target, which theoretically is something mystical, right? Because it's not going to happen for years. And it's so absurd at this point, which maybe that's how you make the name for yourself. But Tom Lee doesn't need to make a name for himself. I think he needs to protect the name more than anything. I mean, that can get people very excited, but also if it doesn't happen, which you don't know what's going to happen in 5 years, could also get people really mad. So I don't know, but whatever momentum ETH and Bitcoin had, I mean, it's gone, right? ETH with 3,300, that's at $69 above 3,000. It could very clearly break below 3,000. And then Bitcoin at 94, that momentum is gone as well. Like any excitement on Wednesday when these things pumped that the market had, completely gone. And gold and silver continue to be basically at all-time highs. So it's very weird, the risk on ecosystem that's just not participating. ASTS 9%. Wow. Not sure why this one's making that big of a move this morning. I didn't see any headline, but that's up. Crossroads says it's mystical and tough to buy when ETH can't put in a new high this bull cycle. Yeah, I mean, that's such a good point. If ETH and Bitcoin can't put in new highs in the cycle, how do you continue to buy derivatives of them? Plus, I'm still not sure if we're in crypto winter or not. I know Roy has been, and Matt have been making this argument that we are going to have a crypto winter, which theoretically would end at the end of 2026. If you kind of follow the historical cycles, if the 4-year thesis even makes sense. But if that's the case, obviously, then there's going to be a lot better price to buy these stocks. Fluence, that's up 7%. Credo is also up as well. Fluence Energy right there, 6.4%. And then Credo, that's up 6%. How about Ondas? That one still up 1.4, 1421. That's green. S&P once again at 690. Are we getting the Tesla pump? Tesla was dumping in the morning. Dude, Tesla must be so amazing to trade. The volatility in this name, right back to green, 438. 15.2 million shares traded today on Tesla. Matt says not ending in 2026, but bottoming in fourth quarter to H1 2027 before a 2028 rally. That means a year and a half of no crypto gains, ladies and gentlemen. If that thesis is correct, it's not going to be the best for the Coinbases, the Hoods, the MicroStrategies. So I guess we're going to see over the next few months. I've been loving scalping covered calls on Tesla. Yeah, the premiums have been, the premiums have always been pretty incredible on this one as well. And obviously, if the stock doesn't rise, then you can yield it the volatility from the covered call. Google 328, Hood 115. All right, so I mean, do we even what other big headlines do we have today? I don't think we're gonna have anything else that's too crazy. That was the big deal. We needed to get the Supreme Court decision. That's gone. We got a couple Jensen clips. You have some stuff around NVIDIA. Nothing crazy enough. Oh, NVIDIA hired a Google Cloud executive as their new chief marketing officer, Allison Wagenfeld. So she got poached from NVIDIA or from Google to NVIDIA. She used to be the VP of marketing at Google Cloud. She's now the CMO at NVIDIA. I don't know if that even matters, but I guess that's important now that we don't have the freaking Supreme Court decision. Carvana, wow, Carvana, 459. That's green. Greeny green. But that's up. That's up. Roy says, usually a crypto winter begins after a blow-off top rally. I still expect that first, but we'll see. Wait, where do the call sheet odds go? Yeah, let's pull that up. Where are these odds? They were at 32%. They're still at 29%. There wasn't an end date on this, so it makes sense. I mean, the odds didn't change, but obviously the timing did change. So for those that are just joining, again, we don't have a Supreme Court decision. We are waiting. And we're going to have to see ASTS 9% on the day, Broadcom 2, and then Intel up 9. All right, so let's ask this question, everybody. Let me get rid of the poll because the Supreme Court thing doesn't matter anymore. Same question I asked a couple of days. I asked this question, I think, on Sunday on the Future Show. How are people feeling about the rally to start off the year? Which, undoubtedly, we have had a rally to start off the year. 50% of you said the market would pump, by the way, but unfortunately we haven't had the decision come in. My year to date, I'm looking at it right now, is 10.2%. That's not normal to see a 10% move in what amounts to be 5 trading sessions. I'm sure a lot of other people's year to dates are potentially even higher than that, especially if you're leveraged into high beta. So what is the synopsis of this rally, which is not affecting NVIDIA, but it is affecting a lot of stuff. So what do you feel about the bull rally so far? June says, I love it. I'm up so much. Yeah, I mean, if you're heavy in these names, yeah, what else are you going to say? I love it. It's amazing. Bullish, bearish, neutral. Bullish means you think it's justified. Bearish means you think there's going to be a rug pull. Neutral means it is what it is. It's the market. It is kind of a dumb question. It's like, how do you feel that stocks are going up? Well, I feel really good. So I want it to continue going up. Like, yeah, obviously. But, you know, the broader implication here is like, do you think it deserves to happen? Which is a different question. Amcor just went green. Micron as well, still up 4. And then NVIDIA, once again, goes red. I really wonder if this is a year, and I know it's so early to even say this stuff, but nonetheless, you know, this is what we're reacting to. I wonder if this is a year where NVIDIA gives you 10% and your money would have been better not in the most important company on the planet and in something else that's just like, you know, more, something that's smaller, has more beta. Now, again, a lot of those names are being affected by NVIDIA. A lot of them are derivatives of NVIDIA, especially these energy plays, for example. And, you know, they're essentially a derivative of the AI ecosystem, which is NVIDIA. But who knows? Maybe NVIDIA has a great year, but it just doesn't return on the stock because there's just not enough momentum and there's too big of a market cap for it to return. Now, again, I heavily doubt that, but that is a narrative that is out there. ASTS did hit 100, up 10.3%. I don't think there's a news piece on ASTS today. This feels like potentially something more technical. This is another example of high beta. I see a lot of option flow coming in, a lot of call option flow coming in for February. Got an upgrade from one of the banks, also got a downgrade on January 7th. So we're not seeing a massive headline this morning right here. Look at Tanner. I say one thing potentially bearish about NVIDIA. He gets upset. No, look, I think NVIDIA is going to do well. I just, you know, could there be a world in which the large caps, more broadly, not just NVIDIA, don't really return and the small cap rotation, meaning they do well, but they're not going to give you like Google did 70% last year. NVIDIA did almost 40%, 35%. Like, do we get another year out of that? Dan Ives thinks tech stocks do 25% this year, which means your NVIDIAs, your Googles, your Amazons probably would do a lot more than that. But I think that's the question that people are thinking about right now. All right, congrats to those in ASTS. You got a move today. A big move at 100. Massive move at 100 today. SoFi, is that moving? 28, that's up 1%. Fiji down 3. Then S&P 691.5. Growth is already baked into NVIDIA. They are posting unreal earnings and barely moving. That's the reality. Yeah, I mean, look, just being at this conference all week, you kind of forget the stock price and you see the actual company itself and you're like, my goodness, the level of innovation these guys have to put in to get the results they're getting. There's just no other company in the world that can do this. But then, you know, you leave the conference, put your investor hat on and be like, well, it is a $4.5 trillion company, which again, doesn't matter because the growth is matching up to the reality of the expectations. And that's strong enough to keep the momentum. But it's also one of those things of like, hey, can it continue 2 years in a row with adding that much market cap? Jensen did do an interview. I want to pull this up. This came out yesterday. And the last question I thought was important. He was explicitly asked, are we in a bubble around AI? And let's take a listen to what he had to say. Tesla as well, starting to get some momentum today, as this one's up almost 2%.
Jensen, my other investor friends will not forgive me if I don't ask you about 2026 on the business side. Are we in an AI bubble?
AI bubble. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to reason through that. And so again, you know, when asked that question, my mind goes to what is AI and where are we in that? There's AI, then there's computing. You know, as you know, NVIDIA invented accelerated computing. accelerated computing does computer graphics and rendering. AI doesn't. Accelerated computing does data processing, SQL data processing. AI doesn't. Accelerated computing does molecular dynamics and quantum chemistry. AI doesn't. These are all things that people could say someday AI will, but it doesn't today. Accelerated computing is really essential for classical machine learning, XGBoost, recommender systems, the whole process of feature engineering, extract, load, and transform. That entire data science, machine learning lifecycle. Accelerated computing is used for all of that. The first thing to go to is in the context of NVIDIA. What we see is the dynamic is a shift from general purpose computing to accelerated computing because Moore's law largely ended. You can't use CPUs for everything anymore like you used to. And so it's just no longer productive enough. It's not deflationary enough. And so we have to move towards a new computing model, and that's where accelerated comes in. If generative AI, if chatbots, let's just go, OpenAI and Anthropic and Gemini, if none of that existed today, NVIDIA would be a multi-$100 billion company. And the reason for that is because, as you know, the foundation of computing is shifting to accelerated computing. That's the first thing to realize is to take a step back and ask yourself, what is actually happening? Now the next layer up. The question about AI now becomes, what is AI? Now we ask the AI bubble question, and we always go back to OpenAI's revenues, 100%, don't we? You ask somebody, hey, is there an AI bubble? Everybody goes directly to OpenAI's revenues. First of all, if OpenAI currently has twice the capacity, their revenues would double. You guys know that. If they have 10 times the capacity, I really believe their revenues would 10 times. And so they need capacity. This is no different than NVIDIA needs wafers from TSMC. Just because NVIDIA exists and we're doing great doesn't mean we don't need capacity. We need capacity. We need capacity of DRAM. And so in our world, it's sensible to everybody. We need capacity. Well, in their world, they need factories. And if they don't have factory capacity, how do they generate tokens? Which is where we started our conversation today. And so they need factory capacity in order to increase their revenue growth. But nonetheless, we also said that AI is more than chatbots. It includes all these different fields of science. NVIDIA's AV business is coming up on $10 billion. Nobody ever talks about that. And because you have to train world models, you have to train these AI AVs, and it's happening, robo-taxis happening all over the world. Our AI work with digital biology, our AI work in financial services, the whole industry of quants, quantitative trading is moving towards, exactly. There used to be classical machine learning, a whole bunch of human featured, they call quants, right? These specialized mathematicians were trying to figure out what the predictive features are. Now we use AI to figure it out. And so in order to have, instead of having quants, you need a lot of supercomputers. Financial services is one of our fastest growing segments. Billions of dollars in quants, in financial services, billions of dollars in AV, billions of dollars in robotics coming up, billions of dollars in digital biology. And so how big can all that be? Well, simple logic is this, simple math. Whether you think that AI is going to replace labor shortage or workforce shortage in any kind, let's ignore that for a second. The world is at $100 trillion in GDP. Out of that, let's just say 2% annually is R&D. And let's just go back in time. 5 years ago, if you were to take the largest drug company in the world, and where's all of their R&D? Wet labs. Today, what are they doing? Building supercomputers.
I'll link the podcast in the chat, but the broader argument here is something I heard at the NVIDIA event the entire weekend, which is that we have to stop thinking of data centers for intelligence. We have to start thinking of them as AI factories. S&P, by the way, really getting a big move, at least from the lows of the day, 692 now at the highs of the day. And these AI factories are going to be conducive to drug discovery and everything that OpenAI is doing, and financial services. I mean, every single sector of our life. Wow, S&P about 0.5% on the day. Where did this come from? That's kind of random. Tesla right there, 442. NVIDIA's still red. NVIDIA's got to flip green if the S&P gets anywhere near 0.7%. And that's why it's not a bubble. Now, obviously, Jensen's not going to say it's a bubble. Like, we get it. But that is like his technical argument for why you logically cannot say it's a bubble if every level of human life is going to be dealing with these new forms of factories that are creating intelligence, and that obviously will result in increased revenues. Ethereum right there, 3,100. Look at that green candle on ETH. And then Bitcoin as well, from 89.7 to 90.9. That is interesting. The Friday 401k just hit. Yeah, maybe Maybe those passive ETFs just bought a ton of stocks. Rocket Lab at 87. Here's your heat map today. Tech is red. That might be flipping in the next 5 minutes. Everything else is relatively green except financials. Healthcare up a little bit. Again, non-farm payrolls came in at 50 grand. For those that missed it, Nebius 103. Wow, Ondas 15. What's all-time highs on Bitcoin 91? S&P all-time high is 693.36. We are pretty damn close. We got to 693.14. Where did this shit come from? Zeta's almost 25. We thought Supreme Courts would do it today. That wasn't the case. Open Door, S&P 693 again. Open Door 770, 20% on Mr. Open Door based on this Trump announcement around mortgage rates, or at least QE that could affect mortgage rates. Rocket Mortgage up. NVIDIA just flipped green. All right. Let's see. Can we really get some excitement here? Let's see. S&P's 15 cents away from breaking all-time highs. We are so back. We're dying. We're back. We're dying. We're back. Rigetti's up 4%. Nebius 104. Iran data center names are moving. Iran almost at 50, 48.73. S&P, it's got 5 cents to make an all-time high. Oh, wait, no, sorry. 52 guys, 693.96, not 36. So it's got like 50 cents to make an all-time high. But it's close. Wow, HIMS is actually down 5%. What is going on with it? I know the Vigovi news with Amazon today was not good for HIMS, but goodness, bro. You'd think this thing already got hit enough. S&P 693, Tesla 443. No, don't give me a red candle, Mr. S&P. Don't do that. Don't do that. You were doing so well. Don't flip red. Go back to 693.30. We'll make some progress. This is not the time to throw on that red candle. Can we all just manifest 7,000? Can we all just like close our eyes together? Except the shorts. Can we, if everyone's longer, can we just close our eyes and just like manifest it? Isn't that law of attraction shit real? Like when energy comes together and shit. Wow, NVIDIA just goes red. Oh my goodness. We need NVIDIA to be green to have any manifestation here. 693.14. D-Wave up 5%. Dude, I mean, again, if people were trading short the Supreme Court stuff, that headline's out of the window now. So maybe that's blue skies, at least for the short term. Ondas up 7, Bitcoin 91.6, Ethereum 31.28. Where's Zeta? Zeta's at 24.74. SoFi 28.15, and then ASTS is up 9%. That's so weird, dude. Complete reversal and then recovery. ASTS just lost 100, but still going up. Are we vibe trading? Aren't we always vibe trading? Looking at the vibes. With Trump, it's always the vibes that allow us to trade. Nebius right there, 105. 105. Trump posted unpublished jobs data early on social media on Thursday. Did he? Did he do that yesterday? I didn't see that. Did Trump actually tweet out the jobs data before it came out? Is that a thing? That's, I mean, I guess that's why they have the data. Where's copper? Let's see some of the commodities. That's got to be up right now. Yep, copper's up. Copper's up because silver is up. Silver now almost close to passing 80, folks. 5.5%. once again on silver gold, right back to 4,500. To 45,100. Yeah, this shit is crazy, bro. And then see, this is the question. This is why I asked the question about the rally, because it's like you could hate the high beta momentum so far and like the silver and gold and everything else that's kind of just going up with Nvidia not participating and large caps, etc. But it might not be the smartest thing to fight it if that's the trend. Now, the question is, how do you know if that's the trend? And I don't think we have enough data on that yet. Bitcoin right here making a real big move, 91.7. But whether it's in commodities or high beta, it's happening. Rocket Lab still holding. That's up 5. SoundHound up 11. I did not know Trump posted the job numbers before they came out. That's kind of crazy, but I did not see that. And then I ran trying to move up to 50. There's not a headline either for this. I think the headline ended up being, oh, no Supreme Court decision, pump it. Which kind of makes sense, right? Because that would be the one thing that could potentially not pump it. Seda, she's trying for 25. I mean, dude, if she ends the day above 24, that's a hell of a week for this stock. A hell of a week. That would be a big freaking move. SoFi up 2.3. BM&R just went green. All right, everything flipped. Not today, shorts. Not today. Not today. What's your opinion on Broadcom? I like it. I mean, I would really like it in the low 300s, but I think if you're buying Broadcom here, you're obviously buying this chip revolution, and Broadcom's a massive player in ASICs. Like, you cannot deny them. Now, when they were up 80% last year going into earnings, they were just priced for perfection, which is why they got hit. NVIDIA is cheaper than Broadcom and AMD on a forward basis. So, you know, it's a question of diversification if you don't want to be in NVIDIA. But if NVIDIA is going up, Broadcom's probably going up, which again kind of forces the argument on SMH. And I think that's why we saw such a big surge. Look at SMH, it's up 2% today. Like, if this AI revolution is happening, the money's got to be allocated. Which is another reason I think Jensen says it's not a bubble, because there's just so much money and infrastructure that has been committed that if it's not real and it doesn't turn out, everything crashes. Like, everything in the semiconductor industry crashes. And what we're seeing with a memory shortage and Samsung and SK High, it doesn't feel like that's going to be the case. It feels like there's way more demand than supply, which means you buy the semis. And if you don't want to be hyper specific in it, you just buy SMH and that's it. Year to date, I think it's up already 7% year to date. Yeah, around about, well, 5%, which for an ETF in 8 days is pretty incredible. I ran close to 50, S&P 500 again, almost all-time highs. Cheeky, thanks for the super chat. Hey, Amit, just got in from celebrating. Please, can you wish my hubby, Craig, a happy 52nd birthday? Craig, happy birthday to you. Happy 52nd. Thank you for watching and having an awesome wife. Appreciate you being part of the channel. And I hope you enjoy 52 for your birthday. You know, I almost met one of you guys in Vegas that, ironically, another wife who has a hubby who's a big fan, and she wanted to take a picture with me to send to him. The schedules just didn't end up matching, so unfortunately we weren't able to do that. We'll probably do a FaceTime, but yeah, it was really cool to see a bunch of you guys this weekend, and hopefully I'll see more people at the meetup in New York, which is in a couple weeks. Tesla right there, 442, holding on. Nike goes green again after going red from the Supreme Court decision. Then Google at 329. At 329. Why are you guys saying I said Craig wrong? Like, what are you talking about? It's Craig. C-R-A-I-G. It's wait, that's how you say it, right? It's not Craig. Yeah, you guys are making me doubt myself. Dude, it's Craig. That's his name. C-R-A-G. You said it right. Okay, good. Why are you guys saying it is not it's crazy? What? Okay, either you guys are messing with me or it's crazy. Okay, I mean, Cheeky sent the super chat, and they're the ones saying it's crazy. I have never seen CRAG, which to me is like Craigslist. Like, dude, I'm going losing my mind right here. I guess it's crazy. I'm too hungover for this, guys. Well, this is like, boy, I had 7 glasses of wine last night. Crazy, bro. There's no way. There's no way I'm saying this. It's not crazy. Like, you guys are messing with me. Google right there, 329. Bloom Energy up 2. That one lost that 5% move. Bitmine just went green, and then Zeta trying to get up to 25. Dude, there's no way it's crazy. I don't believe this shit. It's freaking Craig. It's freaking Craig. Crazy is his rap name. You know, I love red wine. I'm gonna become a red wine connoisseur. That's what you have to drink with steaks, right? Some nice red wine last night. Now, granted, the red wine cost $1,000, so maybe that's why I liked it last night. It's I don't even know how to say this shit. I'm gonna say some crazy thing. This is the wine. There's a picture of it. Los Vogiet. I don't know, but it was expensive wine. It's good. I'm gonna start becoming a red wine guy. Maybe if I drink enough, I'll know that it's actually Craig and not crazy. S&P lost 693. We got to 693.45. I've seen a couple red candles come in. SoFi 28.24. The rest of the market kind of holding up. Supreme Court next ruling date could be next week. Any public session day at 10 a.m. Wow. The Supreme Court can drop their opinion on any public session day at 10 a.m. Eastern time starting next week. Oh my, this could be look at this. This could be an everyday thing that we have to wait and see on what happens. Huh. All right, so it'll definitely create a little bit more volatility in the broader markets. APLD is still making a move. That's up. Is Zeta buy here? Look, I like Zeta, guys. I like Zeta. I know a lot of you guys have been asking, you know, how much do I have? It's over 6 figures in Zeta. I like it. I got it at 20. I think it's cheap. At 24, I think it's still cheap. I really like the CEO. I think they're going to keep executing. I don't think it's like the biggest no-brainer in the market because there's a lot of other names that are thematic, like drones and nuclear and quantum. Zeta doesn't have any of that on their side, but they have valuation. And I'm more of a valuation guy than a thematics guy, especially when a lot of the names in the thematics are, in my opinion, a bit expensive. So Zeta's not. It's just not. And if they keep beating and raising the way they're doing, I mean, I think the stock's going higher. So is this the best buy at 24 up from 20? No, you probably want to wait on a dip. But could it go higher and then this runs away from you? Yeah, absolutely. It's just, again, you have to have your own personal tolerance on when you want to be able to buy in. I mean, Trump says something stupid, market goes down 2-3%, Zeta's probably back down to 20. So that could easily happen. But I like it. I also like Grab here. I bought more Grab yesterday. Again, it is what these are the names that I personally like that I think are consolidating. Grab, for a couple charts I was looking at, it looks like it has hit a triple bottom, which to me is a very obvious buy signal. Now that could be wrong. That's not in energy or quantum or anything. I personally feel comfortable building this position, knowing that I think it should be a $10 stock. And I think patience is important when it comes to this stuff. But if you don't want that, that's okay, right? Like there's plenty of other names that offer you a lot more volatility. But I like Zeta's valuation. I like Grab's growth prospects. And so those two names I continue to buy. Now, granted, if you bought Open Door, you would have done much better. Look at this thing run. 20% on the day. 765 as mortgage rates potentially are still coming down. Saratoga water and fine wines, next stop caviar. Dude, why do people like caviar? It's just fish eggs. I say this as someone who's never had caviar, but like, why is it so special? It's like super expensive. It's at all these cocktail parties. I'm like, is it that serious? Is it that serious? Admit I'm getting ads during the stream. That is not because of me. That is because of Google. And that's why that company is almost as valuable as NVIDIA. I have not had midstream ads on my stream for literally 3 years. So that is not because of me. Even if you're not on YouTube Premium, you should never see an ad during the stream. So if Google's doing that, you got to let Sundar get his $4 trillion market cap. But that is not me trying to help them get there. That's weird. That's annoying, bro. Like if I turn off midstream ads and Google throws it in there, that's like, it's kind of like not what's supposed to happen, but I don't know. Mike, thanks for the $20 super chat. Thanks for all you do, Amit. I recently got approved for a 1.6 million line of credit through Fidelity. Thoughts on this? If that 1.6 million from Fidelity is coming through your assets, aka it's a margin loan, essentially, that you got approved for, call it 2 million in margin. It comes down to a question of, you know, do you want to engage in using your assets, aka your stocks, as the basis for generating a return by collateralizing them from Fidelity and using that as capital? So my thoughts on it is great. You know, Fidelity is giving you the ability to borrow up to 1.6 million. The broader question is it worth borrowing any of that money? Remember, the thing about margin that I think people forget is that once the market corrects, your margin line of credit also corrects. Like if you were given 2 million because your portfolio is worth, I'm just throwing out a random number, like 3 million. I'm probably wrong on the numbers, but your portfolio goes down to 1.5 million. You're not getting 2 million in margin anymore. And that's where you get margin called. So I think one thing that could be scary is people are seeing all these high flying names. They go on margin. They say, oh, I'm going to buy everything that's high flying. And then we get a correction. And then you're on margin on names that are up 200%. They're not coming back up to 200% that quickly, which is basically what happened in November. And, you know, then you have to sell at a loss. So I never want to say stay away from margin, because like margin is just another way of using your assets to collateralize the ability to generate more capital, but you have to be responsible enough to know like what's your limit and tolerance for margin. But it's a personal decision. No one can hold your hand through this, you know. If you're mature enough to invest, you got to be mature enough to know how to borrow money to invest as well. In general, most people say, you know, stay away from it. But there's obviously a lot of people that use it very strategically as well. Ford is down on the day 1%. Micron up 3%. Then Amcor at 51.20. Let's get some coverage on the actual non-farm payrolls as well, given that came in this morning.
Rate fell. Remember, I said this was really important. This is what the Fed is watching very closely. It was 4.6%, and it came down to 4.4%. David, if you don't round the number, it was actually 4.375%.
Yes.
So that was good news. Did we make that
yes.
point too? Yeah, I mean, look, I think it suggests, along with the fact that we did see wage growth, that we're not in any kind of labor market recession or terrible spot in the labor market. Now, the bad news is we didn't get as much payroll growth as expected, and we only grew 50,000 jobs during the month. That was weak. We got revisions lower for the prior few months that were weaker and that subtracted job growth. You can look at this in a number of ways, but one way to look at it, David, is that we know the supply of labor is down because of the immigration policies, because of the visa policies. You know, that it would make sense that the hiring comes down as labor supply comes down? Does it speak to overall weakness in terms of businesses wanting to hire? Maybe a little bit, but there's wage growth. 3.8% year-on-year wage growth is a sign that, they're still paying for those workers. And with the unemployment rate down, you're not seeing necessarily some big stress in the labor market. The Fed probably is going to be heartened to see the unemployment rate go down, but just to add to it, the Atlanta Fed GDP number, which tracks real time, puts in these inputs for fourth quarter, is now tracking above 5%, 5.4%. So we continue this recovery, or this period that we're in, guys, where it's high growth, high productivity, high investment in places like AI, and lower hiring than we're used to in this kind of economic expansion, and that's where we are.
Okay,
I
believe you.
So there you have it.
Okay. I mean, it's kind of what we talked about early on. The labor market is showing, along with GDP growth, that we can't get a rate cut. There's just no way Powell's going to give us that in January. And if he does, maybe the market gets more concerned about what's happening, given how hot we're running. We are running it hot right now. If you've heard that phrase been thrown around over the past couple of weeks, we are running it hot right now. GDP, QE, and then obviously high beta. And that's the nature of how this market is operating. Oracle right there, 195, 3% up. That was 186 the other day, or meaning yesterday. So we're seeing some more reversals there, and that makes sense with all the data center plays that are reversing as well. Tariq, thanks for the super chat. Wish you were talking about Zeta when I was buying it around 17 in August. I wouldn't have sold. Dude, honestly, in August, I had a couple friends like Davis who were interested in it, but I just didn't. I didn't care until I really just sat down and looked at the numbers. And it was at 1840 when I put out the deep dive, and I was like, okay, the numbers are really good here. The problem with Zeta, again, though, is just there's nothing that exciting about the company. It's marketing. It's who cares? This is one of those plays where it's not I love the thesis, or I love the company, I love the mission. This is just bro, it's cheap. It probably should go up. It's an unemotional. If the company executes, which they have shown a lot of evidence for, they will go higher. It's not democratizing financial services like Robinhood, or saving the West like Palantir, or humanoid robots ruling the world like Tesla. It's just a SaaS play that's cheap. So yeah, it really wasn't that interesting months ago. It's still not that interesting fundamentally or qualitatively as a company, but the numbers are very interesting. And that's why I'm in it. Pounds right there, 177. AMD, that one goes green, but just slightly. Lockheed Martin also up another 4% from yesterday. Yeah, similar story to Amcor. Now, Amcor is a better narrative because of the whole reindustrialization of onshoring around semiconductors in the United States. That's actually a very powerful narrative, especially given how Trump has been framing it. But it's similar in terms of the re-rating that could happen. Zeta is like Meta. We almost have the same name. That's true. What are we doing with Meta, guys? This thing is, are we just DCAing into Meta? I haven't bought any this year. I have my DCAs from 630 last year. I don't know. I still think NVIDIA outperforms, but if Zucks gives us some updates on what he's doing with all this CapEx, maybe Meta outperforms? I don't know. Dr. Payne, thanks for the super chat. Do you still have your grab spreads? Yes, I'm waiting until Q1, and then I'll decide what I do. We need to see 750 on that. I mean, look, I think grab probably should be worth 750, but I'm going to hold on to those spreads until Q1, so probably until May, and then we'll make a decision. We'll see what we have to do with those spreads as they expire in January of 27. Tesla right there, 441. Meta, again, up a little bit. Again, that Manus acquisition they did the other day, I did think that was pretty bullish, but the street doesn't care. At least not right now. Dude, what if Google outperforms Meta again next year? Or sorry, this year? Could people see that happening? given the difference in valuation? That's actually an interesting question. Let's put that in chat. By the way, 51% of people feel bullish about the rally, 34% say neutral, 16% are bearish. Does Google outperform Meta this year? Again. I mean, those TPUs, search is not dead. I know the earnings multiple is aggressive compared to Meta's, but they got GCP, they have a cloud. Oh, by the way, I got an email yesterday, and that email came from the SPV that I invested in for Aptronic, which is a humanoid robotics company. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because Aptronic has increased their valuation from 1.5 billion to 5.5, which is a 3x markup from the Series A round that was in March. Google has put in 150 million into Aptronic. So Google, for those that don't know, Aptronic and Gemini Robotics, Google DeepMind, they have a very close partnership, very deep partnership. Google has put in 150 million into Aptronic. I think they got in at the $1.5 billion valuation, not the 5.5, but the email I got says that Google has officially completed the remaining amount of their investment. And the reason I bring this up is because, well, wait a second. I mean, if humanoid robotics takes off this year, or at least kind of takes off, Google is a play. Google is a legit play. Meta is not a play, unless the robots are going to be watching ads, which they're probably not. So, I mean, I know we came into the year thinking that Google was more expensive than the other names, but it also feels like Google has way better tailwinds than the other names as well. So that could be a big deal. And I think that's something important to look at. So 400 million they raised after raising 403 million in March. And it looks like this could be pretty freaking big for Google. 328 right there, up 1%. Broadcom 343 up 3. And then Nebius up 5.2. What's your average on Nebius? 95, 95.50, something like that. Didn't Nebius get to like 85 the other day? This thing was just at 85. It was at 75 in December, but like, yeah, it was at 88 in early January 2nd. It was at 88. I mean, look, it could get back there just as easily. I mean, this thing is volatile, but maybe we're leaving the 80s behind. That would be nice. But it is a very volatile name. 102 right there on Nebius. Are you also in Aptronic? Yes, I'm also in Aptronic. Shout out to Chris Camillo. He got me into that name. I got in at the 250 million pre-seed round. So very, very grateful for that investment. Hopefully, is one of those moonshots. I put in 10,000. I think it's worth like 170 right now. And yeah, if Aptronic ever, becomes a $100 billion company, that one could be worth a lot more. So very, very grateful to Mr. Chris Camillo on that one. Meta 650, Oracle 194. That's up 3. Costco 920, CrowdStrike 470. Home Depot up 2. The space names are still taking off. Redwire is still up 2%. Where's Rocklab? Are we at 87? Rocklab, no, 84. That's down from 87. What do you think about Datadog? I don't know what Datadog does. I have no idea what these. I know it's a SaaS company, but I have no idea what they do. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk. Is that his name? Donald Tusk? Expressed concern over the U.S. threat to take over Greenland, fearing it could strain NATO and embolden Russia. Okay. I don't know. The guy's name was Donald Tusk. I mean, yeah, like obviously, I mean, like I'm sure a lot of the NATO countries are not going to be happy about Greenland potentially being taken from the United States. Like, so of course they're probably not happy about it. I don't know. Let's do another poll. I'm curious what people think right here. First of all, what did you guys say on Google? Let's pull this up. 70% say Google outperforms Meta. Damn. Okay, so the question is, are people buying Google over Meta? Because I think most of you guys said you're buying Meta over Google. It would be a little bit of a flip. But here's the question. Do you think Trump actually tries to take Greenland? Like, do you think this guy legit tries to do this shit? Because part of me says probably not. But the other part of me is like, I don't think he's like kidding when he says this shit. Open Door up 20. Broadcom up 3%. You have to look into Datadog. I mean, I'll take a look at it. I don't know if this is the most exciting SaaS name that's out there. See, the other problem with SaaS names is like I look at them and I look at Zeta and I'm like, bro, Zeta's growing faster. They're about to be profitable and they're actually cheap. Like, is a 15 times price of sales on Datadog cheap? Not really. It's kind of normal for most SaaS companies trade within 15 to 20 times sales. Now, Palantir is the outlier there. Zeta's at 4, which again, like, is like, all right, so if they get to 10, which would be normal, and for their growth rate at 34%, they probably should be trading at a premium. Like, the stock is probably close to $40-50. So at least in the SaaS space, I'm not seeing that much alpha outside of a name like Zeta, just based on pure valuation here. But I'll look into it. Maybe there's something deeper for Datadog. By force or by buying? That's a good question. I guess in general, do you think he's going to really try to go for it? Strategically, yes, but militarily, no. He will offer Greenlanders 1 million. How many? Hold on. What is the population? Bro, there's 57,000 people in Greenland. What? Greenland is an autonomous territory of the Kingdom of Denmark and is the largest of the kingdom's 3 constituent parts of... Why did I think there were like 7 million people in Greenland, bro? 57,000. So that's why when they said we're going to offer 100,000 buyout, I mean, that's realistic. If they were to take the buyout, because it's actually not that much money. But goodness. France delays G7 to avoid clash with the White House cage fighting on Trump's birthday. Emmanuel Macron's office of the new schedule is the result of her consultations with G7. Yeah, none of these European countries want to give the sign off that it's okay for Trump to even think of Greenland. I think they're also worried, even though if Trump has an argument around national security, which I haven't looked too deep into it, but maybe there is some argument there. The NATO countries are worried, well, what precedent is it setting if we just unilaterally are okay with Trump like taking and buying out different regions? I think that's the issue right there. Silver above 80. Congrats to my silver bulls. And if you went short silver on Monday, again, I think the house view was to just like not do that. Like, because you can't really predict when this thing's going to crash, if it does even have to crash. So the shorts are not winning on this trade at all. And the longs are really juicing it right here. And potentially forming a base at 70, which is also going to be very healthy for the longs. Silver is in $80.70 right there. Oh. Could you have Chris talk about silver? He came on Monday on the show. Was it Monday? No, it was last week. He came on and he talked about silver. So, yeah, we had his perspective. We talked about Steve. I know I haven't streamed with Steve all week, but it's just because I've been gone. But, we talked about silver with Steve a week and a half ago as well. I mean, I think our consensus view was just like, if you weren't in it long, you don't need to be in it short. You don't need to be in every trade, especially when 50% of the industrial output from silver is the broader use case, especially when it comes to to data centers, solar panels, etc. Ondas, that's still up 2%. Carvana's up 4.5. D-Wave still up 1.3. Robinhood flipped green. It's 11 a.m. We didn't see a massive 10:30 slam. In fact, we saw the opposite at 10:30, even after the tariff stuff didn't happen. S&P is still holding 692. Yeah, this whole Trump released job data early. I did not see this stuff, but that is kind of crazy that it happened. It had to be early in the morning, I imagined. Oh, wait, was this? Wait, did he delete the tweet? At 8:20, Trump posted a picture showing private sector job growth of 654,000. The data was then officially released at 8:30. Oh, yeah, he did. I see it right here. Isn't that a crime? I mean, like, isn't a meme coin that falls 90% also a crime? I don't know. Yeah, here. Damn, that's crazy, bro. Trump doesn't care anymore. Look at that. Posted it at 8:20 p.m. on January 8th. That was yesterday night. I obviously did not see that. And then it came out this morning at 8:30 a.m. Bro, maybe that's also why the pre-markets were green before the data. Everyone already knew that it was going to be decent. This is wild, bro. This is quite the markets we're living through. ASML, that's up another 5% on the day. Again, unemployment rate came down to 4.4%. We did not get a Supreme Court decision on tariffs. And so I think we're getting a pump just based on the clarity of not having any clarity today, quite frankly, around tariffs. And then obviously the unemployment rate going down was good, even if the rate cuts are not going to happen. So there we go. So that is what you got. How come you didn't tell us? Dude, I was 5 glasses deep in red wine last night. Honestly, I slept at like 2 a.m. No, I slept at 3 a.m. But your boy was up at 5 a.m. for the market open. But it was some good red wine. It was decent. Dude, damn, if I had known he tweeted that last night, that's an immediate long, bro. That's like, wait a second. That's great data. That was immediate of a long. Just say you don't care about us anymore since you've gotten the fame and a boyfriend. See, this is, I'm not helping myself, by the way, with this whole Davis is not my boyfriend thing, given how I'm tweeting. But it is what it is, dude. It is what it is. Like, when this shit happens, I'm not helping myself. This was us on the rocks. This is the amount of comments under this. I mean, it was a fun date. A date doesn't have to be romantic. You can have a date with your best friend. Still a date. Look at it, snowing in Vegas, bro. It's a great time. It doesn't have to be romantic. But see, this is why I don't like traveling. Because when I travel, I miss the show inevitably. Although we only missed one market open this week. Just to context. We only missed one. We missed multiple closes, but that was already, like, there was no way we can do the close. We only missed one market open. But then it feels like you're out of your routine and, like, oh, you're too good for us. You're falling off. This, that. It's like, no, dude, I like being in my routine. I like doing. But you also have to come to these events. These events are super important. It's just really hard to do the close in the middle of a day when you're traveling. Because like how do you do the close when you barely paid attention to the news all day? And then, you're traveling. So how do you just like set up a computer? But we only missed one open this week. Only missed one. Dude, also yesterday, we were going up the rocks. It was freaking, it felt like 29. I will prove it. It felt like 29 degrees. And I was like, bro, this is supposed to be Vegas, not freaking like New Jersey. I just left New Jersey. Feels like 29 yesterday. It was 43. And I was like, and I started sniffling. I started coughing a little bit. I was like, bro, I kind of feel a little sick. He was like, if you take tomorrow off and tell people you are sick again, you're done, buddy. I was like, you're right. I was like, the sick excuse works maybe once every 2 months, if I'm lucky. I can't milk that excuse just because it was cold outside. It was freezing though, bro. It's like 29 degrees. This is kind of stupid. When are you going back home today? I'll be going back home today. 442 on Mr. Tesla. And then it started snowing, bro. I was like, what is going on here? How is it snowing? I didn't know it snows in Vegas, but I guess it does. Certain parts of California, Vegas, you get the snow. That's where people go snowboarding and skiing and stuff as well. Counter Green 177, AMD 206, Netflix down 1.7, Amcor still green. For anyone who's, again, looking for an energy play, Enersys is one to look at, ENS. I will link the spaces I did with Stock Talk on Twitter. I started talking to him a lot more over the weekend. I mean, it makes sense, dude, given the valuation, given the energy infrastructure, the grid capacity problem we're having. I'm linking it right here in the chat. It's 30 minutes. You can listen to it. I'll probably have some more DD on it next week, but for an energy play that hasn't taken off, that's also relatively cheap. It trades at 1.5 times sales. ENS might be a really good one to look at. Google right there, still pushing 330. Bitmine just went red. I ran just below 50, and then Zeta. She got us 24.90. They didn't give us 25. But even holding 24 by the end of the day would be nice. Altitude will make you nauseous. You know, like, honestly, I didn't struggle on the hike. I didn't get nauseous or I didn't want to throw up or anything like that. It was just the rocks were kind of hard to climb. So, but at some point you get into like a flow state. Like me and Davis were talking the whole time going up the rocks, and then we both kind of were quiet for like 20 minutes. And because we both were kind of just like in our own worlds it was actually kind of fun. Like you're not even looking at the next rock to put your foot on or your hand on. You're just like, you kind of just go with it. And you start thinking about life, and there's no service, there's no internet, so you can't be distracted. It was very peaceful, to be honest. Now, did I want some Wi-Fi at the time? Yes, I wanted some, but like I probably needed 2 hours without the Wi-Fi, which I got. But that was the fun part about it. And then legit, we almost died a couple times by slipping, but you know that didn't end up happening, which is a good thing. Although I did turn my ankle twice, but not like one of those turn your ankles where it's like, oh, you're like limping. It was just like, I turned it. I was like, I'll be okay. And I just started walking. But if it turned to the point where I was limping, it would have been ugly. But overall, it was fun. Rocket companies, that's still up 6%. CoreWeave up 1%. And small caps for the day continuing to be strong. Small caps and the S&P, though. So again, it's kind of like an everything rally with silver and gold. Also participating here. Let's get a little bit more coverage, and then we'll keep going from there and see if we have any other headlines.
Basically said, okay, we tried the broadening trade. This run it hot scenario has been top of mind. Everybody's been implementing by banks, by industrials, by consumer cyclicals, and that has worked up till now. And then today, when maybe you thought you were going to get an extra boost to that trade, if in fact the tariffs were disallowed, and then didn't get it, all of a sudden the machines just unwound it. So that's just micro dynamics in the market, but I think it's relevant because everyone came into this year seemingly with a similar plan, which is, look, we're pretty heavy in AI. We think earnings growth is going to broaden out. We think that all policy measures are now working in favor of a reacceleration of the economy. Let's get ahead of that. I think the question is going to be for the next few weeks, how much have we paid up for that scenario initially before we get evidence that, in fact, we're going to have it flow through the economy?
As I talk to people, Mike, I think there's something else just to pile on the bullishness here, which is you have an administration that is laser focused on the midterm elections and Americans' well-being and affordability on things like homes and on food. And They're getting creative. I mean, announcing a QE from Fannie and Freddie to try to bring down mortgage bonds, like
it is creative. QE from Fannie and Freddie. I mean, I think I saw that last night when the tweet came out from Trump, and I was like, wow. I think it was like 7 hours after he posted it, and I was like, my goodness, that's a hell of a way to try to get these mortgage rates to come down.
that is an example of, I think, why people are feeling really bullish, pushing back tariffs a year, sort of the administration almost every day now rolling out something to help trying to juice and make the consumer feel better.
Yeah,
that's bullish.
That's exactly what I was saying,
Which is
though.
negative for margins and pricing.
It could be. But that's kind of what I was saying. Where basically people are saying, yeah, we know the tax provisions are going to kick in, and we're going to get an extra little bump in terms of refund season. That was already baked. But I do think that what I meant by the run it hot scenario has everybody believing it is for that reason. It's because you see them pulling every lever they can grab, and it's all this sort of, oh, look, it's demand side stoking of the housing market,
It's a
even though we need supply.
running
No,
the
but
White
it's a
House and
CEO
the
who
economy.
is trying to grab for the tools that are, and you know what else it is? It's the Treasury issuing on the short end, the way they criticize Yellen for doing forever, and it's every single move that was tried before. I mean, accelerated depreciation is corporate cash for clunkers, okay? That's my take on it.
Often on things they've already bought and already spent money on.
Which is all fine. Which is all fine. And it does get the economy moving right? I mean, you see whether you actually have leverage in those levers or not. I think more to the point, though, the market craves other things to play besides AI. There's AI fatigue. It seems a little bit zero-sum among the mega caps. You see a day like today where the wild, long shot energy plays are again flying. And it shows you, okay, we sold those in the first few days. All we cared about was memory. It's become a very whippy trade, that AI theme. And so everyone would love to just say, let's buy FedEx. Let's buy United Rentals.
Let's buy Marriott. Let's buy
100%.
Southwest Airlines. Home builders, best week in almost a year.
Exactly. And I think the question is, how much of a ceiling do you have on valuation above where they're already trading? I was looking at American Express the other day. American Express is at 22 times earnings. It's a financial. It hasn't traded up there really since the global financial crisis. So I think
this is a really important point he's making, because either this continues for the rest of the year or at some point valuation matters. Right now, obviously, valuation does not matter. So, I mean, yeah, American Express is probably not supposed to be getting that type of a multiple, but it is. But there's also a lot of financial tailwinds with deregulation, M&A, IPO, et cetera. But how much does the street really say we're going to be able to give to these companies?
you see that, step by step, if you go through the market, that, yeah, it may be cheaper than Alphabet at this point, or it's cheaper than Microsoft, but it's not cheap relative to its own history.
Even though they're looking beyond AI, I mean, what's propelling the utilities to the top of the market today, it's an AI trade. Vistra is up 13%, and then some of these other nuclear plays, Constellation, NRG, they're soaring on this Meta announcement.
I mean, I don't mean to say that it's over. Yeah. It's just that the market felt as if it was too narrow, too extended in one direction, and they want to try something else.
Yeah, hence the small caps outperformance.
And they also want to just own risk. So it's not as if, equity exposures are already really high, and even if you're kind of just going to rotate around, it's not because you want to go to cash. You want to actually just find something else that's underexploited.
Look, he's right. And this is actually becoming very similar to 2025, where first 2 months were super high beta, and then we had that March drawdown because of tariffs. I mean, I don't know if we're going to have something like that happen again, but this time the tariffs are being delayed. The tariffs are being rolled back. QE from Fannie and Freddie, potential rate cuts, although if we're running it hot, probably not going to get those rate cuts, but even the concept of it potentially happening is money that could leave certain parts of the ecosystem. And then corporate earnings being good, GDP growth at 4%, like, it's enough to justify a bull market. But again, the question becomes, at what point does the market say, hey, we're not going to pay this multiple? And I don't know. 693.44 on the S&P. She's trying again for that 52-week high, about 40 cents away. But that's close. Meta, are we pumping a little? Meta, yeah, 642 to 654. Or sorry, 651 to 654. Nothing too crazy, but that's still up 1%. And then Nebius is up 5. U.S. Supreme Court expected to issue rulings on Wednesday, January 14th. If that's true, that's another day that they're going to... Yeah. January 14th. January 14th. Officially, that's the new day. I think Bloomberg and Reuters is citing this. I think the Supreme Court website might have issued a statement as well. January 14th. Okay, so well, that's going to be... That's the first day of... Well, the second day of corporate earnings for banks. That's next Friday? No, that's next Wednesday. Okay, Wednesday. That's our next day for the tariffs. All right, so that'll be an important day in the middle of the week. Tesla right there, 444. We have a bunch of bank earnings that day after hours. Maybe that helped the S&P get a little jolt right there. Just some clarity. January 14th, we're going to see. Are you sure? I'm having 5 different sources confirm it's January 14th. So obviously they must be citing Bloomberg here. So yes, that is the headline, January 14th. Do you think Amcor is overvalued here? No, but I think it's run up a lot. So, buying it, the risk is that it just retraces and takes a breather. Again, the good thing about buying names that are cheap is that when they take a breather, they just become cheaper. But buying names that are expensive, when they take a breather, they don't get that much less expensive because they're already super expensive. So you can justify buying at a higher price easily if the name is much more expensive. Then again, does expensiveness even matter right now in this market? I mean, we're just adapting to how the market's acting. I don't know if it necessarily matters. Micron right back to 340. The memory shortage argument continues to be a pretty big catalyst right here, 4.5%. As that holds on to the green. What do you think about Nebius? I like it. Makes sense. I think it's one of the most complete data center plays. And it's very, very diversified. Do you think Amcor could break 60? Yes. Again, the Amcor thesis is based on a re-rating on their price to sales. And you have to actually understand the company and then believe in the broader semiconductor supply chain ecosystem onshoring in the United States. Again, we've talked about it a lot. There's plenty of DD on X. We did an entire podcast on it a while ago. But you have to believe in that. Now, any hiccup in that narrative, yeah, the stock gets hit. But that's with all the semis, right? Which, again, it begs, do you think there's going to be a hiccup in the semiconductor narrative? And it's like, I don't know, based on the stuff I saw with NVIDIA and AMD this week, it's hard to imagine there is. There's going to need to be energy, power, servers, racks, all the things that are necessary. That doesn't mean all those companies are going to be great investments. Obviously, SMCI has not done that well. But that ecosystem is going to be thriving. It really feels like it will be thriving. All right. I think that's what we got, guys. I think that's what we got. There is not going to be a market close today. I'm going to be flying out at around that same time, basically. So we will not be able to do a market close today. Admit, I need to plan my life. Is there a market close? No, I'm going to be on a plane, but we'll be back on Sunday for the futures. And I just appreciate everyone keeping up with the channel this week. Obviously, big week for the channel. It's been, it's been fun getting to ask Jensen the question, all that stuff. But I'm happy to get back to my schedule. Happy to get back to my schedule. By the way, I think my mom is completely desensitized to my life. Because, I was on the phone with her yesterday, and I was telling her about the Jensen question. She's like, oh, that's nice. It's like, thanks, Mom. And my dad didn't even, I sent the video to my dad. He didn't even click the video. My dad was like, so what'd you ask him? I was like, I asked him about how he handles the pressure of, running the company. My dad was like, okay, cool. So when are you coming back on Saturday? I was like, I'll be there at 9 a.m., Dad. I'll be there. He was like, all right. They absolutely did not care. And I'm saying this more so because I feel like they're you know, when I interviewed Vlad for the first time or talked to Carp for the first time in 2024, it was like such a big deal to them. And now they're like, oh, cool. Nice. Great job. You know? It's like, it's a different world. It's a different world. It's just, and I think that's also healthy because like at some point you should be desensitized to that stuff. It shouldn't be that big of a deal because you should keep pushing the limits for something better than that. And so as cool as it was this week, now we got to move on, started off 2026, get back to work, and got a lot of stuff planned this year. A lot of stuff behind the scenes that I think will help take things to the next level. And I think people will be excited about it. Mitt's parents be like, talk to me when you're a doctor. Dude, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. Indian parents want their kids to fulfill that prophecy. You know, it was so funny. Vlad at dinner last night, his grandfather, so Vlad, obviously a very successful businessman, he started making money 20 years ago, and he was doing like $3 million a year in profit. And his grandfather, who was getting sick every day, when Vlad went to go see him, he would be like, when are you graduating college? When are you getting your degree? And they're Russian. And Vlad was like, I dropped out of college. I don't need to get a degree. I'm making $3 million. I'm in business. And he's like, cool. When are you getting your degree? There's some of that, you know, it's like immigrant mentality type of just like, hey, there's this version of life that we want you to achieve. But going the opposite route is fun sometimes as well. So it was cool. It was a good week. I'll be back. I'll be back on Sunday. Bitcoin right there, 91.4, just below 92. And yeah, we'll get the schedule going. This is ridiculous. This comment is actually ridiculous, dude. You know what's so funny about this? Tell them your boyfriend is a nurse and that's good enough. So Davis, I got to meet his mom yesterday. His mom is absolutely adorable. She's this. I hope he's Davis. Are you in the chat? Are you listening? He's at work right now. Yo, Davis, it's the funniest shit last night is that I've been to 2 of these dinners with Vlad, right? So it's a very like extravagant dinner. So I kind of knew what to expect. This was just a really good restaurant, but there was like 10 other people there. It was fun time. Davis is at the dinner and he's just like, dude, where the fuck am I right now? It's just like, what is happening? Like, why are we here? He's like, what is going on? There's this billionaire. There's this $1,000 bottle of wine. It's like, what's happening? I'm like, bro, you're here. Just embrace it. And then, we did gamble with Triple V. I didn't gamble. We saw Triple V gamble after made 250,000, and then the casino said you're not allowed to gamble anymore. It's a different story for a different day. But basically, he got stopped out of the casino because they were like, you're up too much money, which is kind of crazy. This is why gambling is stupid, because the house has all the authority, especially in Vegas. So, I mean, he was playing freaking $5,000 hands of blackjack. He ends up being up 250 grand. And then the casino's like, yeah, you're done for the night. So then we all just ended up going upstairs and drank more wine. And then Davis, while we're upstairs, he's like, dude, I have to go be a nurse in 5 hours. It was the freaking craziest thing, because we went on Red Rock. We did a massive hike. We came back. We had this extravagant dinner. We saw someone gamble with hundreds of thousands of dollars like it was nothing. Then he got stopped for gambling because he was winning too much. And then we're in his suite drinking wine, and he's like, dude, I have to go be a freaking nurse in a couple hours. So it was just an entirely crazy experience. But the reason I even brought this up is because we're in the car with his mom, because she was taking us back to his house. And Davis was like, oh yeah, this is my friend Amit. And she's like, hi Amit. And Davis is like, yeah, he's my boyfriend. And I'm like, bro, you can't, like, what are you doing? Like, you can't, like, and his mom was just like, oh, okay. Like, and I was like, oh, she's so adorable. She's so adorable. I had to clarify, I'm not his boyfriend. And then she was like, are you the CEO of Palantir? I was like, no, not the CEO of Palantir, but I like Palantir a lot. So she was great. She was awesome. But this is how you know Davis is very comfortable in who he is. I mean, like, I look, if my mom came to pick me and my friend up, even if me and my friend, like, act gay with each other because it's fun, I don't know if I would tell my mom that's my boyfriend. I don't think I would say that, bro, because I think my mom would actually be like, wait a second. And like his mom was just like, oh, okay, that's fine. So it was pretty funny. It was pretty funny. But yeah, that was the weekend. That was the event. Last night was really fun, dude. Vlad's just a good guy. He's a really good guy, and he loves to enjoy life and tell stories and, you know, embrace it. So I enjoyed it. I think this is the first like really good red wine I've ever had. And so now I'm gonna become a red wine guy, just like I'm a steak guy. And then we'll get back to the routine, because I would really like to get back to the routine as much as I love doing this. So he won 250K, yeah. Apparently at this casino, he's cleaned them out for a couple million before. And so they kind of knew who he was, and they were just like, this guy cannot do this shit again. And they have all the authority to do it because, you know, they're a freaking casino. They can stop you anytime they want. So, but it was kind of crazy, dude, seeing someone freaking put 5,000 on a hand in blackjack and double down. It's just like, I was doing $25 hands, you know, and I lost $600, not $5,000 hands. But there's all different levels to this stuff. So it was cool. It was fun. It was exciting. Happy to go back home. Really grateful for the opportunity, grateful for the event. Hope you guys had a good week. I mean, look, it's been a good week for most people's portfolios. I mean, realistically, if you're down this week, you're in HIMS maybe. I mean, you're in PayPal, you're in some of the retailer ET. I mean, everything else is up. And even if it's not up like crazy, it's still up. Now, AMD and NVIDIA are not crazy up again, but like they're probably down for the week, but they're not down that much. So if you're in anything that has a little bit of exposure to high beta growth right now, ASTS, Rocket Lab, Space Mob, like even crypto, it's at least up from where it was on Sunday. We should be relatively green, and hopefully that can continue towards the end of the month. You may have lost 600 at the table, but you gained a $1,200 dinner for your portion of the 12K. That is true. I was drunk enough to try to pay for it, bro. I was drunk enough to try. I don't even think I could have paid for it, dude. My credit card only has a $5,000 limit. I don't know why Robinhood only gives me a $5,000 limit. So I wouldn't even be able to pay for the freaking dinner. I was like, Vlad, I got it. I can handle this. This is the wine for those that are asking. It's kind of blurry right here. Yeah, you guys can. I'll show you guys on Sunday. You guys can't see it there because of the webcam. But for those, I'll show it on Sunday for those that care about what the wine is. Hood gave me 20K, 10K. Dude, my mom is 15K. And I asked the concierge, I was like, guys, like, can I get a little bit more than 5K? And they were like, well, based on this. I'm like, what do you mean based on that? Like, just like, this is ridiculous. 5,000? Like, what are we doing here? So hopefully they increase it. But yeah, regardless, it was a fun night. Exciting week. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll be back on Sunday night. What else? Is that it? Are we good? Do we have to do anything? No. Is there any other? No, I think that's it. Yeah, I'll be back on Sunday. That's pretty much. Oh, word of the day. Yes, we got to do that thing. Okay, word of the day. Let's do that. That is important. Can you link your Instagram? Yes, I will link the IG. I've been posting stuff behind the scenes on Mr. Instagram. I'll post it right here in the chat. Is that Napa wine? What the hell is Napa wine? Napa wine? Napa? Dude, I have no idea. All I know is it's wine. Grand Cru Los Vugiet. From Napa Valley? What the fuck is Napa Valley? What is Napa Valley? Oh, is this where they make the wine? Oh. Oh, this is in California. Wait. I thought they made the wine in France. They made it in California. Guys, I don't know about wine, okay? All I know is it was good and it was red. That's where the grapes are grown. Okay, I know wine comes from grapes. I'm not gonna say that. I know wine comes from grapes. But oh, that's champagne. Okay. All right. Dude, I'm not a wine guy. You guys got to give me some balance. I'm not a steak guy either. I've been learning. I'm like understanding what it is. So no, I didn't know what a Napa Valley wine was. I will learn. I will figure. See, this word of the day is perfect. This word of the day is perfect. Word of the day is incipient, just beginning to develop or emerge in an early initial. See, this is why I love ChatGPT. She knows me. I am in an incipient stage of my wine journey. How is it possible you're clueless about alcohol and your dad owned a liquor store? You know, that's a good question. It's because my dad didn't drink, to be honest. That's why. What looked insignificant at first was actually an incipient trend that later reshaped the entire industry. Okay, there you go. I'm in the incipient stage of learning wine. I'll show you guys the photo on Sunday so you guys can see the actual picture of it. I don't even know how to spell this, dude. Like, I want to spell it in the chat, but this cursive, like, you guys can't see it. I don't know. I'll show you guys on Friday or Sunday. Los Vugit or whatever. Can I find it right now? Vugit. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know how to spell this thing. I'll show you guys on Sunday, and you'll see what it is. All right, cool. So that's it. That is our word of the day. He's an incipient stage of the finer things in life. Yeah, I guess so. But I will become a red wine connoisseur. You know, I only used to drink white wine because, like, I don't know, it was like a college wine. I feel like red wine is like more classy. That's what you're supposed to drink. So now we're gonna do that. And now I know about Napa Valley too. So there you go. Yeah, Welch's was the only other stuff I used to drink. All right, that is it. Thank you everybody for being here. I'll see you guys on Sunday. And hope everyone has a great weekend. Hope everyone's been having a good week. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think that should be it. We'll get the Supreme Court thing on the Wednesday. Earnings start on Tuesday with the banks. So next week we're back in action. And I'll be back in my routine and we keep going from there. Did you guys really want the name of this thing? Could you guys see that now? Okay, there it is. Perfect. I got rid of the clip. That's what it is. Los Vugit. There it is. It says France on there. Okay, so this is not from the Napa Valley thing you guys were talking about. It's from France. Yeah, we'll probably do Equity Edge next week. It's just Stock Talk and I both were at the event this time. All right. That's what we got. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Matt might be doing a market close, so check him out. If he's doing the market close, I'll link his channel right here, Mr. Matt Money. And I'll be back on Sunday for futures, and we'll get back into action next week. And we will keep going from there. There's his channel right there in the chat. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Thanks for the wishes on the safe flight. I will see you guys on Sunday night. Appreciate everyone being here all week. Sorry we missed the show 2 days ago, but we got to keep it 4 to 5 days, and we will get back to schedule starting on Sunday and keep going from there. Thank you, everybody. Love you all. I will see you guys Sunday on the Future Show. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.